Indiana Jones, It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
I am cutting this.
Looks like I'm walking.
It's like something.
Like something. Welcome, everybody, to the Indiana Jones Minute, the show where normally we discuss the films of the Indiana Jones series 1 minute at a time, but this time this is a special fun bonus episode. My name is Tom Taylor.
My name is Pete Mummert.
I am Joe Christopher Marcus Porter.
And joining us today, all the way from patreon.com/Indiana Jones Minute, is our old pal, Zaction. Zach Phelps.
Hey, Zaction.
Hey. Yes, or also known as Mora Number One.
That's you? Excellent.
Yes, my real name's Mosley.
Just to explain to everybody, over at our Patreon account over there at patreon.com/Indiana Jones Minute, we have the let's go talk to us together level. At which you could, if you join for a month at that level, you get to tell us what to do. You get to come on the show like this and bring your own topic, movie, anything you want, and we will talk about it with you. And Zach, you brought us Midnight Run.
Yes.
That's awesome.
One of my favorite comedies of all time.
I don't know anybody who doesn't like this movie.
Right? And everyone in the movie is perfect. Everyone, like from the stars of the movie down to the like one or two line people, everyone is just perfect.
Yeah.
Everyone contributes and is an asset. And it's very few movies you can say that about.
Or
true.
podcasts.
This movie, I think, Tommy, you said like everyone you know likes the movie who's seen it, but it does seem to be a movie that's slipped through the cracks.
Yeah.
I had never seen it.
A lot.
Yeah,
Like
this
if
is
you
Pete's
say
first
that,
time.
Yeah.
People are kind of like they're either like, "Oh, that's a great movie," or they're like, "Wait, what? Do you mean like Midnight Cowboy?" And you're like, "No, Midnight Run." And like, "What is that?"
You describe the plot and the time. It's like, oh, you mean planes, trains, and automobies, right?
Right.
That's basically what happens.
You said Charles
So Zach-
Grodin, but you mean Steve Martin, don't you? People do that all the time.
Yeah. Tom said Charles Grodin was in this movie and it's like the talk show guy. What?
Oh, that's
Right.
sad. You think of Charles Grodin as a talk show guy?
Well, I don't anymore. Now that I've seen this movie, I don't. But I did before I saw the movie.
He's a gem. Except in Rosemary's Baby. What a disappointment in Rosemary's Baby. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Do you think there's a reason that this one sort of gets, I don't know, washed over by time a little bit? It gets sort of ignored?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, in some way, it's not... It's like... I mean, you want to compare it immediately to Beverly Hills Cop because it was around the same time, same director and stuff.
Yeah.
And they have a similar kind of feel and everything. But it's like there is something super weird about, buddy cop, or not a cop movie, but a buddy movie with Charles Grodin and Robert De Niro. That's like kind of just super weird. And it's like, it might be hard for people to like, if they didn't experience it the first time, like when it was out, they might see it on what used to be a video shelf or now on a streaming screen and be like, oh, I guess I'll watch that. I guess that must be good, right? I don't know. Like, I don't know. There's something not immediately connectable to it in some weird way. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, Robert De Niro was just coming off of The Untouchables.
Yeah.
He was mostly known for his serious roles. He did The King of Comedy. So that was his one, like, darkly comic role. Otherwise, Deer Hunter and Taxi Driver and Raging Bull and Godfather Part 2.
Yeah.
So I think there was also, it was a strange thing before, now De Niro is doing nothing but kind of mostly goofy,
That's kind of true.
slapsticky
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
I have a very half-baked theory about this movie and about him, and you guys can talk me out of it or confirm it for me. This seems like the most kind of normal, regular guy role ever for Robert De Niro. At least
sounds
maybe
right.
when he gets older, like as an older man, he seems to maybe do a little bit more of that. But like in this era, like in the 80s and 90s and stuff, it's like the most kind of straight regular dude, to the point where he does kind of remind me of Rupert Pupkin from King of Comedy. Like he's just sort of like another just regular schlubby dude, and not like some big like Al Capone or Don Corleone or something, or even like a boxer or anything. He's just like a dude in a leather jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't-
it's true.
I don't know. I mean, I see him in this, and he's Robert De Niro adjacent, in that he's a wise guy. I guess like Goodfellas hasn't come out yet, right? Or,
Right.
I'm sorry, like Casino, hasn't come out, and so he's not really doing. He's a wise guy, but he's a different type of wise guy. But he's still fairly straight in this.
But I think our confusion was shared by the studios, because a really interesting thing I learned is that the first two choices by the studio, not by the director, but by the studio to make this bring in some cash for the Charles Grodin role were Cher and Robin Williams.
Oh my god!
And I think they didn't quite know how to play off of Robert De Niro with this, and I think they threw some pretty wacky ideas.
Wow.
Yeah, Cher and Robert De Niro in Midnight Run.
Comedy,
Wow.
yeah.
You know, Robin Williams is nuts enough. It would have been a different movie, but he could have pulled this off, I think, really well. It would have been different.
Would have been
but I
very
think,
different.
It would have been
Very
like, hey, boy. Like all like crazy,
Yeah.
like wackiness.
Yeah.
And-
Like there's a lot of like riffing in this movie. There's a lot of like, you can tell they're just kind of like having fun, like taking long takes and like just kind of riffing off each other and stuff. I would take that for a week and a day from Charles Grodin, and I would take it for about 30 seconds from Robin Williams.
Yeah,
But I
would've been
think
really
Charles Grodin's gift here is that he's so understated in a lot
Yeah.
of it. Like he's just so, it's beautifully done. I don't know how many other people could do this. Pull
Just
this off.
Mario
perfect.
Unpopular with the
Yeah.
Chicago Police Department.
Oh my God, is that funny?
you have the right to ask me certain questions.
It's
I think I
it's-
did.
I have a question for you though, Zaction, before we start.
yes.
And this has been a burning question on my mind for years and years and years, and it will come into play at least twice in this movie. And you are famously an ER doctor.
Yes.
And so maybe you can help me out. How difficult is it to punch a guy and have him like very softly fall asleep comfortably for maybe 6 or 7 hours and wake up fine? Like with one punch, with sort of one gentle crushing punch.
And not give him
How
a
difficult is
concussion
that?
or brain
No,
damage.
I guess
or-
it can happen though.
Really? Like you?
I hate to admit, but because I spent a lot of time in New Jersey on the Jersey Shore, when it was a thing, I watched most of the episodes of Jersey Shore, and there was an episode, classy. There was an episode where one of the guys who was featured in the show punched someone out and just knocked him out, just like you're saying. I mean, just out
Wow.
cold.
Huh?
But by the time the police arrived, he's like waking up and he's just, so I guess that happens. And by the time people arrive in the ER, they're, they come around. So yeah, it wouldn't seem realistic, but yeah, I guess it could happen.
It seems like it's Robert De Niro's superpower in this movie. Like it's almost like
Yeah.
a
Oh, yeah.
martial arts thing. Like he knows the exact nerve cluster to hit on your face or something to make you just fall
I feel
asleep.
like a lot of people, like Indiana Jones, knows that move. Like a lot of people are really good at that
Yeah.
move. Yeah.
Well, did they talk about like you having a button on your chin?
Yeah, right.
Have you ever heard? Yeah, it's like you have a button on your chin, and I kind of thought, oh, okay. No, but what is it? What is that a real thing? Is there a nerve on the end of your, like a circular terminus for a nerve on the end of your chin?
It's like there's that
That's like
button
the
under your
button.
nose that keeps you from sneezing, and there's that button on
Yeah.
your chin that puts you just fast asleep if you hit it hard
Put
enough.
you fast asleep. I like when people say, "Oh, he's got a glass jaw." I'm like, that sounds like an awful, awful architectural.
Yeah, I don't like that. Whose idea was that?
Yeah.
A separate helmet strap that prevents that from happening. Just
Yeah.
protect that one button nerve area.
Yeah.
Make a fortune.
Well, yeah, we should probably go through this movie.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
I'll start it right the hell off. There's
Okay.
a great opening shot.
Oh, good.
Good.
The opening shot, he's Robert De Niro's walking up by himself, and it's I think that's a great bookend with how the movie ends. Like the final shot, he's like, I guess I'm walking, and he
Yeah.
turns around and walks away. Well, the movie opens with him walking towards you.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I saw that and I was like, oh my God, this movie's so damn fantastic. You know, just that right there. Somebody had to think about it. Like, oh, no, it's with the movie. It's ending with him walking away, but it's beginning with him walking towards you into the scene, and you're like, that's just smart movie making. I love that.
Interesting.
And Tommy, you mentioned Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
Within like the first, I don't know, minute or two or three, right? He chases this fugitive. And Robert De Niro's running down, Jack is running down the stairs, and he crosses a hallway. And I looked at it, and the hallway I didn't even know the director was Beverly Hills Cop, but one of my notes is that hallway is, hey, Mikey, where you been?
Chips Jack.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's exactly the hallway in Detroit from the beginning of Beverly Hills Cop.
It easily
where they
could
shoot
be.
Mikey.
That's funny.
Yeah, there's like
Let's just say it is.
he like pauses, and you see the hallway behind him. You're like, oh, that's the hallway from Beverly Hills Cop.
That's amazing.
Yeah, like
We get-
the opening music is really good, and it's a Danny Elfman score.
That
Yeah.
when I saw that credit, I was like, "What?"
That's
I was not
crazy,
expecting
right?
that. Yeah, I thought that was crazy. But the score to this is just exceptional. Like
Right?
beautiful. There's some moments that are just absolutely haunting too. It's just so nicely done.
It's a great one of my favorite movie scores, which because score usually includes just the instrumental. I mean, mostly it's instrumental as opposed to lyrics and stuff you'd actually like download. And there is. I had the score somewhere. I've been in a cassette still, probably in my garage.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and the song, the opening song, actually is called "Try to Believe," and there are lyrics, and Danny Elfman sings it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's
I've-
credited.
I don't
as
know if
Mosley,
I want that.
Yeah, Mosley and the B-Men is the credit for who sings it.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, it's actually kind of fun. It's cute.
Okay.
He does a
It's-
nice thing
okay,
in this too. That like it's sort of the movie's kind of a feel good comedy. I don't know quite how you'd say it, but with a little bit of an edge. But he does something nice with the music that he never lets you get too on edge. Like the music's always got this feeling of, you know what, it's probably going to be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're having a fun time.
Yeah.
What is so okay? Zaction, how would you describe the music? Because it's there's a theme or a motif throughout the music, throughout the movie, and they don't really deviate from that very much. They have slightly different treatments of it's like, oh, it's a chase scene, it's like this, or oh, it's a scene like at the, as it opens up, he comes up and it's kind of like it's like Wise Guy Blues.
Yeah, bluesy, right? Somewhere.
Yeah,
there's
it's
Yeah.
like
bluesy
Wise
stuff.
Guy. It's
Those-
like
right. Yeah, Wise Guy Blues is good.
It veers into soul though, like a gospel
Right?
at one point.
There is
Well,
like
you
there's
hear
a
those-
strong
Really does.
strain of Blues Brothers throughout this
Yeah,
movie. Like
this movie reminded me of Blues Brothers.
Yeah, it definitely. And I wonder if that's where the score was inspired by or something.
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
the
it doesn't
opening
sound
chords
like
over
that.
the Universal logo are I feel are very kind of bluesy.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
well, there's something about it that's very gospel-y,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
I
like
think
the,
is
especially
yeah.
that scene in the diner at the end. It's straight gospel. Like it's
Oh, yeah.
amazing.
Oh, absolutely. And the opening da da da, they kind of just they kind of hang on it, and I think of what's the dude, Les McCann, the piano player, Les McCann. It there's something about it feels a little bit like that, like some of his stuff that he did for Blue Note. It feels like that, but for me, hearing it makes me think that the movie transcends. There's something that's like, okay, we're here on Earth, and this is its own adventure or misadventure, whatever you want to say. But there's an overarching theme that's sort of transcendent, or I don't want to say heavenly, but transcendent. It's and you see it, you hear it in the music with the gospel chords or the bluesy stuff. But there's also maybe about 15 lines from this movie that are very, very existential and sort of open-ended. It makes me think of it like, I don't know, like for instance, the guy, the other The other bounty hunter calls him a
Dorfler.
whip dick.
How is this going to end in existential? I'm curious.
Yeah, really.
No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. He actually, Jack says, "Well, I'd say that there's bad." He says, "There's, Charles Grodin says there's good and bad everywhere."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Jack says, "Well, I'd say there's bad everywhere.
bad.
Good I don't know about." That's the type of thing. There's like several lines in the movie that have this sort of, it's like an open-ended, moral question.
Well,
Or there's
we get a few almost Deus Ex Machina moments, and like based on what you just said, Jerry, is FBI agent Alonzo Mosley God?
Yeah.
wow.
Interesting.
Because he's like this divine presence, like he sort
Yeah.
of kicks things off, but then whenever Jack gets into too much trouble, he shows up and somehow everything kind of evens out all right again.
But he's also judging Jack the entire time. He's
He
not
is,
exactly on Jack's side, but he's helping.
But
him out,
that's but that's very Old Testament-y.
Yeah.
which we're used
Yeah.
to. Hey, speaking of, I got something to say about Marvin. Right at the very beginning of this movie, Marvin not only first, of course, I have to say before I say anything else, he was on an episode of Columbo, the Dick Van Dyke one. He owned the cabin that the guy scouted for him where he killed his wife, and he's very good. But also, he is Belloc in this movie. The opening of this movie is essentially the opening of Raiders, where Jack gets his guy, he
Yeah,
gets the prize.
I like that.
Marvin shows up, immediately steals it or tries to, and it kind of goes like that for the rest of the movie.
It's nothing you can possess, Jack, that I can't take away.
Yeah, limp dick.
He's
Whip
got a
dick,
good he's got a good knockout move. That car door thing is a great one.
That worked.
Makes you think of the Bionic Woman's car, where the door pops open and her foot sticks out, and she stops the car with her foot. They should make a toy, Midnight Run car toy, where the door just flips open.
It
And knocks
also
over
worked on
another
the
figure.
Flintstones.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there's so many little treatments, either in scenes or with the characters, that make this an exceptional movie. And one of them is Marvin has the car door move.
Yeah.
Like that's his surprise attack or superpower. But his Achilles heel is the Marvin look, right? he's got a button on his chin.
Yeah.
I think there's something magical about a character. I think it's a really hard character to write, is a character who's completely inept and way in over his head, yet still weirdly likable and unlikable at the same time, and also doesn't come off as a cartoon. And I think they walked a really fine line with him, but I feel like they pulled off something kind of nice with him.
Yeah.
That's really hard to do.
There's a lot of that. I mean, Grodin is such a like the downer at the party, and you really like him.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you want to get away from, but you want to hear more. He's just so funny and kind of relate to him, his cynicism.
I didn't know that Pete only knew him as a talk show host. That's breaking my heart, because everything he does in every movie, and like even out of movies, like all through the 70s and 80s, he would like show up on the Tonight Show and just be kind of a jerk to John,
Yes,
but like a kind of calculated jerk, like just kind of a grump, but it was hysterical. It was so awesome. And he
I
just had
thought
that.
it's very awkward YouTube footage of him and Johnny.
Oh yeah,
I gotta
yeah.
watch this.
Like he's
Yeah.
just like doing
Oh.
bits that Johnny doesn't quite get if it's a bit or not and stuff. And
I don't know if it was a bit. I mean, there's like 8 minutes of him feeling like he's chewing out Johnny for a previous comment about his book.
yeah, these are the questions you ask.
Right.
You have guests on your show, and this is how you talk to them.
Right.
I don't.
it's
How do you fashion yourself to become that guy? Like,
I don't
who's
know.
that guy either today? Like, remember, like, Joaquin Phoenix sort of had some of those interviews
Right.
where he was just sort of out there, but it was a very different feel.
Yeah.
Is
That's a
there
different
anybody
thing.
else other than Charles Grodin who can do that or who does do that?
Yeah. Man on the Moon. What?
Oh, yes.
Taxi.
Oh,
What's his?
yeah, Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy Kaufman could do that.
That's true. But that was like orchestrated. That was like like big time, like, deep dive, like high concept
It was all
screwing with people.
performance art put on. Whereas with Charles Grodin on Johnny Carson, I don't know. It's just like maybe
Yeah.
this guy's just really a grumpy crank. It's so uncomfortable. And he was great in The Incredible Shrinking Woman. I just got to throw these out
Of course. Yeah.
there. Seems like
Galaxy
old
Glue.
times. Galaxy Glue, yes. Seems like old times. The Incredible Shrinking Woman. Heaven Can Wait.
Heaven Can Wait. God, he's awesome.
And
in
then a bizarre turn in The Great Muppet Caper where he sings a a true love song to Miss Piggy, like
Yeah.
bizarre, operatic.
Oh, I gotta.
He's maybe the one guy who's
Very-
born to be in a
very
Muppet
weird.
movie.
Yeah, he does
He's
seem like he's
perfect for that.
I'm saying, there's something about Marvin. He's like sort of fearless. And that's what's kind of he's just this dude, like he's inept and yet also really great at his job and also fearless / clueless.
I think
Yeah.
maybe the clueless makes him fearless. Like I think
Yeah.
that helps him. Like because he
Yeah.
doesn't know the danger he's in,
Which
he's
is
okay
kind
doing
of
it.
great. He's like,
Yeah.
do you know Jonathan Mardukas? He's like, no.
Like,
You know what I mean?
proud that he's
Yeah.
Yeah,
What are you gonna do? Read a
And-
paper?
Yeah, and then at the very end, he's like, Serrano comes up and he's like, "Who is this guy?" And he's like,
Yeah.
"What are you writing a book?" It's just like, you know what I mean? He just says, or it's just all of it. The guy's like, they're like, "You're fucking with the wrong
and here,
people."
and he keeps falling for like Marvin, look out. And at the end, when everyone, including Robert De Niro, is like, no, I'm serious this time. He's like, I'm not falling for that again.
Right.
It's like he is kind of powerful because he's just kind of not very smart.
For anyone
Yeah.
who doesn't know, I don't think we've said that like Jack Walsh, played by Robert De Niro, is a bounty hunter, and we see he's at the beginning of the movie he's like collecting some guy, and Marvin is the Belloc to his Indy, another bounty hunter, and they're constantly at odds for the whole movie. Jack brings in a guy, and then he gets a call from, or he goes to see Joey Pantoliano. Moscone bail bonds, and he's got a score for him. He's got to go get the Duke. What's his actual name? Charles Grodin's character,
Jonathan Mardukas.
Jonathan Mardukas, the Duke, who was he was an accountant for a big crime boss, stole a bunch of money from him and gave it all to charity, and keeps sending him postcards of like where he is, and he light it out and disappear, but he keeps sending him postcards to taunt him. And he wants and I guess Joey Pants put up the bail for him, and now he's out that money if Jack can't bring him in and turn him over to the cops. That's essentially it, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
yep.
Okay, I'm good at this.
Did Pete? You may have noticed this. Behind the bail bond desk is a painting of what looks to be a conquistador.
I did not notice that.
And it's again one of those sort of bizarre little treatments in the movie that's brilliant. Like the bail bond office is really disheveled and weird and nuts. There's like a painting of I think it, or maybe it's like Magellan or somebody. It's like a conquistador behind, and you're like, that's just bizarre.
Is it
And then-
Oriana?
Yeah, what's the the bail bonds guy is he's got like really nuts 80s clothes with suspenders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There. Oh yeah, that's weird. It is.
Yeah, I'm looking at it too.
He's got
What
You
is
see
that?
it?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's something on Antiques Roadshow where it's like, it's worth the $5 you paid for it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but you put that in there
That's
and you're
hysterical.
like, someone is really taking their time with this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's set design. That's really
Good
set design.
movie making.
Somebody
and the
paid him
dude's
with that
got the-
painting at one point.
He's got like the horrible suspenders and a super high pitched voice, and he's like, he's like, Jack. You're just like, he's the epitome of like a sort of a greasy, salacious bad guy.
Yeah. What happened to
But
Joey
I-
Pantoliano? He was everywhere for a while. He was on like The Sopranos for 4 years. He was in The Matrix and
Oh, yeah.
everything, and then it seemed like he was on top of the world. And then he just kind of disappeared. Probably not actually, but it seems like he did.
Where did you guys first see him? Because I have an answer for that. First thing you remember seeing him in from a movie
I think
standpoint.
retroactively, I think the answer might
Right.
be this, but then I was reminded that he was in. Is he in Risky Business?
Yes, that's the answer.
That's probably okay.
He was
That's
in Risky Business. Yeah, in retrospect, I was like, oh my God, he was in Risky Business. He was in the Goonies. He's in the Goonies. He was,
Goonies, yeah.
Yeah, and Empire of the Sun, which someone on the Patreon has asked, like, someone needs to do Empire of the Sun, but he was in that. He had a major role in that as well.
I still have not seen Empire of the Sun.
And Yaphet Kotto, the first time you saw Yaphet Kotto, do you remember? In retrospect,
Alien.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although you know what, I may have seen him before I saw Alien because I was young enough that I hadn't seen Alien in the theater or anything. But then he was in a movie that was on cable all the time called The Star Chamber with Michael Douglas. And he was a cop. And that was I wonder if that's actually a good movie. I remember being kind of cool.
I always wanted to see that because I thought it was a science fiction movie.
It sounds like it is. And I think it's probably why it failed because people thought, it's a space movie. It's cops and lawyers. But it was kind of a cool movie.
Yeah, Yaphet Kotto had the only good reaction to the alien bursting out of the chest. He picks up a knife and he wants to stab it.
Yeah.
And the robot, Ash, is like, don't do that.
Right.
It's like, we want a whole franchise of movies. Actually, now,
Movie just
roll
started.
credits, we're done.
Well, and you mentioned great set design, Zach. And I think one of the things I also love about this movie, and I was talking to Tom and Jerry about this, is it mixes great set design with really fun, awesome location shooting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And like they cut from the bail bonds place of one of my favorite places on earth, the Grand Central Market in Los Angeles, which looks exactly the same.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
is that what that is?
Yeah.
It's like a big food hall, like with taco stands and like seafood purveyors, and it's an amazing place.
It's a
Did
really
we
fun
know
place.
from the beginning
Yeah.
that we were in Los Angeles?
I thought it was in New York.
I did too. Thank you, Pete.
I did.
I got really
Yeah.
confused.
Yeah.
He's like, I guess I'm going to New York. I'm like, are you in New Jersey?
And then it,
Where are you?
yeah, because then I was like, why? Oh, they're trying to pass off Grand Central Market as being in New York. But then, like later in the movie, I was like, oh no, they were actually in L.A.
LA, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just taking them at face value. Sorry,
So
Mom.
the building that they shot for Moscone, I Google Earthed it, and this isn't prime real estate.
Right.
It's all boarded now. It's all boarded up and just plastered with those, bill kind of things. This is Wikipedia says that it's actually within the boundary of what's called Skid Row in LA.
Oh wow.
Oh.
Yeah, and it looks on Google Earth across the street. If you turn around, look across the street, there's a hotel that's definitely a 0-star hotel on Yelp. It's just really bad. And ironically, on the corner right next to Moscone's is in the movie. You can see it's Fifth Avenue Market, which is also closed, and there's one sign that remains on the corner. It just says coffee, which is apropos to the movie.
Wow. I was down there this week. I actually played a show at right downtown, and it's like you pass Skid Row, and then a block or two, like it's all sort of this estuary between Skid Row and gentrification.
Yeah, it's
And it's a very peculiar sort of ecology.
But is LA the only city in the world that has an official, like marked on maps, Skid Row?
I thought that was
That's a good
weird.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are signs in downtown that say Skid Row. It's like,
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
It's like a thing.
Is it like
Crazy.
historic Skid Row, like in a beautiful sort of arching bronze thing?
Wow,
I've never,
that's so
I've
sad.
never, other than LA, I've never known that to be like an official thing. It's like a.
I just saw this the other day in Wikipedia. That's why I said it's Wikipedia. I'm not judging. I'm not. I can't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that.
sure.
And when you look on Google Earth, there's signs that say like Jerry says, it's like it seems like 1 or 2 blocks from there is kind of touristy, something about like a market district, like it.
Well, Grand Central Market is right there.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
the old theater
Yeah.
district
Is it really
is
right
right next
there?
to it, and like the beautiful old hotels. Like it's everything's like right.
Angel's Flight.
Yeah, Angel's Flight's right there. Like
Yeah.
everything's right there.
Wow.
That's
Now
the-
Moscone's not there anymore.
That's because
well,
Jack
he
didn't
lost
bring in
his-
the
yeah.
Duke.
Yeah.
He lost his.
Whatever.
I used to rehearse right across from the Midnight Mission, which is like ground zero for Skid Row. There's like a sort of a loft, a fairly abandoned loft, but people. I'm sure it was highly illegal. People could live there, not necessarily homeless people, but the landlord, would charge like, the building was probably condemned, but all sorts of, there was like a sort of artists would live there, or you could, like, I remember one dude, he built a half pipe in his living room. Like it was a big, huge, like 2-story loft, and he just built a half pipe because there's nobody really paying attention. So you'd walk into his house, he had a kitchen to the left and a half pipe where his living room was. And you could just skateboard. The dude was a huge skateboarder.
That's awesome.
And
Well,
there
one of the best bookstores is right. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, that bookstore.
One of the best bookstores.
Last
in the
bookstore
world.
on
Yeah,
earth.
the last
right?
bookstore that has like the book tunnels and the secret
Yeah.
book doors and everything is
Oh,
right
wow.
there.
Well, I remember coming out, like I would go rehearse there, and you know, I remember, I remember walking out, and like the door opened, and there was just a huge pool of blood. Just yeah, it was just really kind of, or I would be like walking past with my snare drum, and there'd be somebody just like doing drugs, like right there. So it was colorful. It was
Well,
colorful.
also, one of my favorite juxtapositions is that the neighborhood Skid Row, which is like an officially designated neighborhood, is right next to the neighborhood toy district.
Yes.
So it's like this, it's like, hey, little kid.
Oh my!
It's a one-stop shop, depending on
Yeah.
the kid.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah. Well, it's near the flower district too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jack's on the case of finding the Duke, number
Right.
1, the Duke.
Well, he doesn't want to do it at first.
No, but he talks him up
Yeah.
to like $100,000.
100,000. Yeah, 100,000.
Not
Which
bad.
it's not like, it's amazing how much different things are since 1980. What was this, 88, 89?
88.
88.
Like that $100,000 was I'm going to retire for life money.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an easy gig. It's a midnight run, for Christ's sake. It does.
Yeah, it says the name of the
Yeah.
movie.
We get our
Well,
title.
now
That's
it's like,
the title.
you know, maybe I'll get health insurance.
Yeah, right.
Is it an ironic title since it's not actually a midnight run? Like, is a midnight run mean
Oh.
it's an easy overnight run?
I think that's what it's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
implication,
it's
right?
like a 5-day midnight run. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just noticed something super weird, and I noticed this when I was watching it, but I didn't stop to actually investigate. Jack goes to like a cop friend of his or something and gets, I guess, like the file on the Duke of like when he was arrested and stuff, and he gets the phone number of the person he called when he was arrested to try to track him down, and it's like a totally old timey, like it's 212 KL58921. What's
Yeah.
happening?
Klondike.
I was
Klondike,
alive
yeah.
in 1988. I
Klondike,
was like a
521.
teenager. I was like, this is like within my lifetime. This isn't like I Love Lucy or
Yeah.
Leave It to Beaver or something. When did we
Hello,
ever
operator.
have phone numbers like that?
I
you know what that-
completely noticed that too.
Yeah, you know what that's based on, right? Is the state or the city. So KL is 5 on your phone.
Right.
And so that's 5,
Yeah.
5, right.
But you
It's
would have
555.
written 5. Is that the movie not wanting to write 555 and make it look fake?
I think so.
And they went KL. Oh my God, that's clever. You know what? Hats
think
off to you,
so.
movie. That's pretty good.
They went 1920s on us.
Yeah.
It freaked me out because I'm like, no. I never in my life used letters in a phone number.
right.
Right.
We were past that by the time I was born. We'd gotten that far as a race.
I feel like you may have used letters in the late 80s, Tom.
Wait, what?
I'm making a...
No.
Well,
phone sex
you're
line joke.
thinking you have to keep in mind that's the guy. Maybe the guy who booked him was the super old timey guy. Saying,
Oh,
Maybe
maybe.
true.
yeah. Maybe
It was
that
minutes from
wasn't.
retirement.
He just sees
Yeah.
5s as letters. Yeah. Yeah. Then he goes to New York, where I thought he was already.
Well, before he goes to New York, Alonzo Mosley, FBI
Oh, yeah.
agent, stops
Yes.
him as he's walking out of the police station.
And the dad from My So-Called Life. He's one of the FBI guys.
Oh, is he the dumb one?
Yeah, the dark-haired one is. I guess they're both kind of dumb, aren't they? He's more like the less stupid. He puts his foot in his mouth less often than the
Okay.
sort of balding
Sir,
one.
that must mean Walsh has your identification.
Right. It's not that guy. It's the other guy.
A lot of great...
Yaphet
go ahead.
Kotto, he speaks with like this thick tongue, like he's having an allergic reaction. He's got this.
Yeah.
It's so
Oh, yeah.
charismatic, though. It's like this bassy voice.
He's awesome.
Oh God, you could just listen and read the phone book.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
name is Hebrew, and it means handsome.
Oh, really? Yaphet?
Oh
Yes.
wow.
Wow.
Yeah, you look on Wikipedia. He was. It doesn't make it clear if he was raised Jewish, but it seems very much like that's the case. His mother converted to Judaism, and his father, from Cameroon, but apparently was Jewish and changed his name.
Oh,
I
wow.
think first name became Avram, and so yeah, Yaphet
Oh, that's cool.
is a Hebrew name. Yeah.
Cool.
We have there's a minute before Jack goes to New York where, again, these little vignettes are just fantastic. He goes, "Can I have my $1,200, please?" And is it Jerry, the bail bond guy, pulls $1,200 out of his like weird sock?
Yeah. It's like knee-high sock.
Yeah, and it's just you're like that right there is what it's A, it's completely realistic. B, it keeps your attention. And it's just it's like there's like 100 of those in this movie.
It's also really telling, like, oh, he knew the entire time that he was going to get
Yeah.
talked up to and give into $100,000. He just
Yes.
has that ready to give him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's during the negotiations with Moscone, where it's like, you got to find this Duke. He's like, I got to chase you down for 1,200. You're going to promise me,
Yeah, yeah.
100,000. It's like, I can't even get the 1,200 from you. That's when he like dejectedly takes it out of his sock.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Disgusting.
But I feel like that sock, like that elastic old timey sock, and you've got like, the letter phone numbers, and I feel like we're looking at. I mean, even though we all used to live there, like it's definitely a case where the past was a foreign country, and so much has changed, and it's the kind of movie I think would be impossible now because like if you have cell phones or like so many of these things in this movie are a product of their time, which I think
Yeah.
is part of what makes it so fun.
I think that's actually part of what made me think of Rupert Pupkin as Robert De Niro's character, is they spent a lot of time on payphones. There's like
a lot
lots
of
of
payphones.
shots of them on payphones. And I think, Zaction, I think that we figured out, or at least maybe this is stupid, but I figured one of the themes between this movie and War Games, which you
War
brought
Games,
to
right.
us a year ago, is people recording the phone tones to get information.
Oh,
that happened in
right.
War Games,
That's
and it
right.
happens
Yeah,
in
the
this.
phone
He,
freak.
he taps the Duke's phone, or no, the woman who he called,
Yeah.
and he gets that phone number, and that's how he gets where the Duke is. And yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Music to my ears, he says.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so let's talk about, I mean, the very, very opening scene, which I think is, it kind of goes by or goes over our head, pardon the pun, but I think it sets something up that's very important, and the existential component, which is he's outside, he's about to come and bounty hunt the guy and catch him. And he drops something. Jack drops something in front of the door, and he bends down to pick it up, and a shotgun blast goes over his head.
Oh,
Right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so it
Yeah.
almost kills him. Like within the first 60 seconds,
Yes.
he's almost completely blown away. And you're like, okay, there's no way he would have survived that.
Right.
Was it not for him, accidentally dropping the rubber
His
band or
lock-
the piece or whatever?
His
the
lockpick.
Yeah, his lockpick. He's dead. This story doesn't happen
credits.
at all. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's not like a hapless, like, oh, thank goodness I didn't get. Like he's actually really good at his job. He's got a lot of skills.
Yeah, he
He's got
gets
a lot of
He's
gadgets and-
unbelievably focused.
Yeah.
He chases in. He's like, you son of a bitch, whatever. He gets really angry. But he does say to the guy, he says to Jerry, like, hey, listen, I almost got killed. I'm getting tired of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so you're catching him at a point where we don't know it yet, but he's malleable. He's thinking about things, right? He just had this experience, and it's kind of nagging at him. Like, I almost died on this dumbass job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that comes up again when he talks to Gail about like, I
Right.
just want to be out of this miserable business forever.
Yeah.
It's really sad. Like he's just so burned out. He's burned out.
Yeah.
And how could you not be in that business? Yeah, he drops the lockpick kit or set, and the blast comes. We get the first word of the movie is the S word, and then the next thing he does, you'd think would be rule number one is then he don't do this. He looks through the blast hole in the door.
Yeah.
You're like, don't look there. He puts his face right there. Surprised that there's a second blast that follows.
Maybe he's not very good at this.
Yeah. The first 20 minutes of this movie, I really want to be Jack.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Even though he's miserable.
He's but he's a tough, and he's kind of smart, and you sort of see him walking down the street, and you're like, he doesn't work for anybody. He kind of has an answer for everything. He's very streetwise, and I'm like, God, I really like to be that guy.
It's kind of amazing. He tracks the Duke to his home and he sneaks into his house, which freaks me out.
Yeah.
I used to have
Yeah.
dreams like that where I was just walking around in somebody's house and they were there and I knew
Yeah.
I wasn't supposed to be there, and if somebody saw me, I'd be in a lot of trouble. But like the dog corners him in the bathroom, and Charles Grodin pulls the thing back and opens the door, and immediately Jack is there, like in control of the situation. Like, get this dog out of here. I've got a gun. I've got a badge. Get this dog out of here. You're the one in trouble, not me. I'm in your house, but I'm the one telling you what to do, what to do.
He says, "Don't move, or I'll shoot you right through the glass." He's really, like you said, it's true. He's
There's not a
back in the
second of
corner.
like, I'm not supposed to be here. It's like,
Yeah.
do what I say.
There's
And
a,
Heidi's
there's a
such
you
a
know
good
what?
dog.
There's
Oh, it's
a
a great
couple of, there's a bunch of lines in this movie that are that are unique and violent.
Mm-hmm.
And they stick out. I guess they add something to the character, all the characters. It's like that one right there. Don't move or I'm going to shoot you through the glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dennis
Yeah.
Farina's got like 1,000 of those in this movie.
Yeah,
I'll stab you through the heart with a pencil.
Don't say another word. I'll
Something
bury this
comes
phone
in.
in your head.
I'll bury this phone in your head.
Right.
But then he goes,
Low
"Hey,
torsion
relax.
voltage.
Have a cream soda."
Yeah. Have a sandwich. Do some goddamn thing.
One of the best lines in the whole movie. Relax. Grab a cream soda.
Soda. It's the only thing he offers him.
Right.
Anything else?
Doesn't sound
But
that
it's
refreshing.
like call some guy a pussy without calling him a pussy.
Yeah.
Hey, grab a cream soda.
How many movies have gangsters that have henchmen that are not afraid of him? That seems like a
Right.
rare combo, which I like. It works in this.
They
Yeah.
kind of are afraid of him, but they don't. They're so dumb that they don't like alter their behavior around him at all to keep him less mad at them. It seems like.
Moore number 2 does say, "Hey, he wasn't mad at me, was he?"
Right.
Oh, come on.
little-
One of the best scenes in the whole movie, again, why it's incredible, is it's like halfway through, maybe a third of the way, and Serrano's, yelling at the dude on the payphone, and Moore on number 2 is
Oh,
like
God, yeah.
kind of fake boxing him.
Right. And gets a sideways, like paunchy middle-aged man karate kick at him. Just
Kinda
gets
like-
4 inches off the ground.
He kind
God,
of like
leave me alone.
candy punches
Get
him a
off me.
little bit. Guy's like, "Get away from me."
Up along Cassidy.
Like,
Yeah.
how do you write that?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So we're getting on the plane now in New York.
Sure, we're trying to.
Getting fistophobia.
Do they still have planes like this? These double-decker
I was
first
going to
class
ask that.
planes?
I was
United.
gonna ask if, has
United
anyone been on a
sold
plane
the-
with a staircase?
No.
Well, they don't even have. They
never been.
almost don't have 747s anymore because United got rid of their last
Yeah.
747 like 5 years ago.
Is that what this is?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Wow.
the 747 with that because it's got that raised bump in the
Oh,
front.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that
Yeah.
bump was where like they would have a bar and you could climb up the stairs.
God, that's crazy.
Wow. Yeah, there's a spiral staircase, and there's a pitcher of presumably fresh squeezed orange juice and
Yeah.
a dozen roses right in first class.
This is actually making me kind of sad. This is we're making fun of like phone numbers and stuff, and the past is weird. But like, are we going backwards a little bit? This seems like a very cool thing to have. This kind of plane, and if we're losing
Right.
our grip on that, I feel like we need to do something.
Now you
That
can
ticket
barely
was also
slide
like-
into your seat.
Oh, yeah.
I,
But that
I
ticket in today's money
accidentally
was
got.
like
Oh, go ahead.
$50,000. That ticket in today's money would have been
Yeah.
really expensive.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it looks like it. They're in the lap of luxury. I was going to say, I accidentally, or like I was forced into getting a first class ticket recently. I was like, I have to fly, so okay, I'll just do it. I'll spend the money. And I was like, this is exactly the same seat. It's maybe like an inch wider. Like they gave me a Coke in like a glass instead of a cup. Like it's actually glass. Like, oh my gosh, I've never held glass before. Oh my God. Like I
get
don't
a
know what
little-
to, yeah.
You got a little surf and turf action.
I did not. I did not get surf nor turf. I got like slightly different crackers.
Can you imagine going on a plane and asking for one of your finest champagnes? They'd be like, "What? Get
Yeah,
out of here!
what year is that?
Finest
This
champagnes,
is 1988.
sparkling cider if
Your
you
number
want."
KL59823.
Oh, nice area code.
Well, so does he
Person
do
lived
this
there.
because he's like, okay, he knows he's getting $100,000, and so I'm going to fly first class.
Yeah,
That's why he does it.
right. He's believing in himself. He's investing in himself.
Yeah. He begins that whole scene like he's like only in America,
Yeah.
Right.
which is
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
Charles Grodin sold the fear of flying quite well.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yes. These things go down.
they're too big.
It's too big. It can't go up.
I kept thinking of Bob Newhart when he used to have his fear of flying group.
Oh yeah,
Oh, did he? That's funny.
that's amazing. I don't know why, but you said that, and I immediately thought, okay, Suzanne Plachette. She was on Columbo too. The Eddie Albert one.
There was an article in the newspaper here recently. There is still at SFO. There is still a they meet like once a month. There's a group where you can go if you're afraid of flying, and you go and like you sit in a fake airplane and like they talk you through.
Oh wow!
Oh, that's
like you
cool.
could actually go and try to get over your fear of getting on an airplane.
That's cool.
And no one talks about fistophobia.
No, the silent killer.
I mean, just take a bus or take some Ativan or something. My goodness. Wow. I suppose that must be tough. I mean, if you have family where you have to fly to see them, I mean, some people, I don't mean to make light of people who have true fear of flying. I'm not a good flyer. Every bit of turbulence. No, every bit of turbulence.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, this is the beginning of the end. This is picture it from the way down, and every crash is going to start with a little bump.
I don't assume I'm going to crash, but when there's turbulence, I'm like, oh, if I get really sick, like just queasy and sick, this is like the worst day of my life. Like, that's what I'm afraid of. Is just getting sick from the motion or something, which
It's
almost
the
never
death
happens.
part that bothers me.
The death part? All right.
That bothers
Everybody's
me
got
the
their
most.
thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their threshold.
Did you guys ever read
You
The
know-
Hot Zone when that came out? In the
Yes, I
movies?
did.
Oh,
yeah.
I remember that book, but no, I
Yes,
And they
it's
were
on my
talking about
desk
the-
in the other room.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
Like one of the first people that got Ebola was like
Yep.
on an airplane bleeding from every orifice.
Great.
There-
Oh, yeah.
There's your worst day, Tom.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess so.
stuff-
Yeah,
stuff
that'd
you
be worse.
Stuff you didn't know you had to worry about. Go read that book. So that virus is still out there. It's just
Yeah.
That was back in the 90s. We must have solved it by now.
You know what was back in the 80s kind of took me by surprise is one of Duke's great questions. He says, "Do you know about arterial sclerosis?"
Oh,
And he's
yeah.
talking about eating a balanced diet, and that seemed quite progressive for
Yeah.
like
Have a
some of the stuff he
vegetable
was
with your
saying for-
chicken.
yeah.
Have some greens.
I kind of love how Jack turns the tables on him too. He's like, yeah, why do you make unhealthy, bad choices? And he's like, well, I don't know. Why'd you steal $50 million?
Yeah.
He's like, I thought I was going to get away with it.
Yeah.
So he sounds like you're in denial.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
So now we're in Grand Central, right? Grand Central Station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they can't go on the plane. He's like, you can't take a prisoner on the plane if you can't fly. You should know that.
Yeah. I'm a handsome pilot. I'm going to scold you.
Right. And so then they're in Grand Central Station, which growing up in the suburbs of New York, I know every square inch of Grand Central.
Yeah. Every time I walk through there, I'm like, oh, I'm in like 5 different movies or 20
Yes,
different
right?
movies. Yeah. And
Speaking
I'm always
of
like,
Robin-
God, that must have been
yeah.
such a drag with everybody who actually has to use Grand Central. Oh no, we can't do it. They're shooting some movie with Charles Grodin and Robert De Niro.
I think they just shoot like at specific times early morning because
Yeah, I'm sure they
that
do.
came up in The Fisher King with Robin Williams.
Oh yeah.
Where there's a whole sequence where the disco ball light kind of falls and he has this fantasy sequence where he's dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And having gone through it so many times, you just can't shut that main concourse down.
Right.
So they probably just try to divert for, it's like we have 5 minutes, let's
Yeah.
get this done.
I think it was John Frankenheimer when he was making Seconds. There's a scene going through there, and they just had like they just kind of stole the shot of the guy walking through because on the other side of the thing they set up this thing with like I think like Playboy bunnies or something, some photo shoot. So everybody's attention was over there on the other side of Grand
nice.
Central while they just stole the shot of the guy walking through.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
That's clever.
You know, there is that scene, I think before this, where... Is it where he's making the fake ID? Jack's making the fake ID on
Yeah,
the
the kid
phone?
watching,
kid,
kid sitting
yeah.
next to him on the planes watching him.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's one of my favorite scenes. I think in cinema,
Because the
cinema
kid's
history.
like, looks good to me.
Yeah, he asked the kid,
Yeah.
"Is this okay?"
What?
Does
But
this
the
look good?
reason is the kid, like, so okay, you're like, all right, we could have a scene where he's just making a fake ID, and you're like, sure, that gets the character where he needs to go, it moves the plot a lot, but you're like, wait a minute, let's put a 9-year-old next to him.
Yeah.
And see what happened. You know what I mean? And you're like, God, this is brilliant because the kid, it's like he's just losing his innocence in that moment.
Yeah. I mean, a grown up's
like-
doing it. It must be okay.
The kid's
You
the
can
kid's
do
losing his
that?
innocence, but at the same time, it makes Jack seem non-threatening. Like it
Yeah.
takes a little bit of the this guy's not as dangerous. Like he he becomes more likable because the kid likes him. It's okay.
The kid looks alarmed at first,
Yeah.
Right.
and then he's caught off guard. Like, does it look good? He's like, yeah, sure.
I love the way he says that. He's like, looks fine to me. Kind of adds that to me at the end, like we're having a conversation.
Yeah,
like,
to me,
yeah.
I love that.
That's a good point, Jay. It's really charming. It's a nice little touch that who would have thought to put that in?
I have a whole nother narrative. I wonder if that is the moment the kid realizes that, he can be a criminal. Like, I wonder, like, that might be where he breaks bad.
Or maybe he
He's
just
like,
thinks that's where FBI badges come from. People just make them on, you make your own when you
like, I could do that.
you join the force.
Yeah, he's like, I can fake an ID.
But Jerry, it's funny because you and I have been bantering about this a little bit this week, but this entire movie about this guy trying to bring somebody to justice is nothing but this guy breaking every possible law he comes across. Like he just breaks law after law after law, like with complete impunity.
I don't know if he thinks so that he's bringing somebody to justice. I mean, he does, but I don't think that's why he's.
But
he's doing it to get paid, and he thinks he's justified in doing it because the guy's a crook.
And he constantly compares himself to his ex-wife's husband, who is a crook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he constantly portrays himself as not being a crook, even though the entire movie he does crooked things.
Yeah. But it's like a
good point.
racist crooked.
He's a fun guy, so it's okay. Like he gets a pass.
He looks like Robert De Niro, and he's charming.
Yeah.
Because he gets there because he wouldn't take the payoff. I mean, if I played by the rules, so he bends the rules to actually get, right end, but some questionable means towards it.
He's got a code. There's lines he won't cross.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, he has. I mean, that's what's so great about this movie. They throw up a couple of these existential questions. The one is, there's good and bad everywhere. Like I said, and he says, well, I'd say there's bad everywhere. Good, I don't know about. And you're like, okay, well, here's Robert De Niro, and Charles Grodin really pushes him. He says, like, towards the end, there's a few of these lines. He says, hey, don't pretend to care about me. It's insulting to my intelligence. He's like, you only care about the money. And you're like, this is sort of Robert De Niro's, his magnetic north is the money, but yet he does somehow convince himself that he has the moral high ground.
That's the key. He convinces himself because he talks a lot about Serrano. He wants to get back at Serrano, but at the same time, the one way he could actually get back at Serrano would be to give Charles Grodin over to the FBI and not get the money.
That's
like
true.
that's the one thing he could do that would be the right thing. That would be this is the honorable thing to do, because he knows if he doesn't give him over to the FBI, he's going to immediately get killed in prison and he won't be able to testify.
Well, and Charles Grodin has to illuminate all of this for him on the boxcar.
Yeah.
When he discovers that Serrano was the heroin dealer, that
wait, we're not there yet.
him. Well, that's
we're not anywhere yet.
we're not anywhere.
I know. We're all over. Let's go back to Amtrak.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some great lines from Amtrak. So where they call Serrano. Two of the great lines. Is this more number one? Put more number two in the phone. So great. Instead of being like, hey, that hurts, he's like, I'll put the other guy on. He immediately is like, yes, I am more number one. And then that conversation ends with, you and that other dummy better start getting more personally involved in your work, or I'm going to stab you through the heart with a blanking pencil. So rattles these lines off.
He's having fun.
I have to say, as someone, my dad was an absolute train nut. And so we used to ride Amtrak all the time.
Oh, that's cool.
And I have been on probably 5 or 6 Amtrak trips where we stopped in the middle of nowhere for a police action.
Oh, really?
The train would stop and you would see a bunch of police cars outside and you wouldn't have any idea what was going on. And then the conductor would, a little while later, would say, we apologize for the inconvenience. We had a police stop. We'll be on our way. And then you'd be on your way. And it was
That's
like
crazy.
a fairly frequent occurrence. It was really odd.
Great. So we were on board with a major criminal until that.
Now you tell us.
Go back to sleep and relax, everyone. God.
That happened to
De Niro's-
me on a Greyhound. I was taking a Greyhound from Grand Central Station back to Cleveland, and I was in seat number 2 on the bus, and the guy in front of me at seat number 1, directly behind the driver, kept leaning forward. And then a little bit would go by, and then he'd lean forward, and then he'd lean forward. This went on for about maybe 20, 30 minutes. He just leaned forward and talked to the bus driver. And finally, the bus driver yelled out, "Can somebody please get this passenger away from me?"
Oh my god!
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
And I was directly behind the passenger, and I was like, am I supposed to tackle him? Like, am I supposed to go like da da da
Yeah.
dun dun dun?
There's Dorfler with his car door.
Yeah, exactly. I had no idea. And what happened was the passenger kept asking the Greyhound bus driver to pull over so the guy could get out and smoke.
Oh my god!
Yeah. And the guy finally yelled, he goes, "I'm not pulling the bus over so you can smoke."
Oh my god!
And he radioed the police. It was in the middle of Pennsylvania, in the middle of the night. He radioed the police. He pulled the bus over, and the police met the Greyhound bus station and arrested the passenger.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was it.
That was a young Tom Taylor.
That was.
Young Tom
I
Well,
needed my smokes. I had a monkey on
speaking
my
of,
brain.
why everybody in this movie smokes. Like
That's
like
true.
there's,
Oh, yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a bunch of themes, right? There's a bunch of
Yes.
themes in the movie. Like everybody has their sort of move, and then the watch. Obviously, the watch and time is a theme, and you know, in a way, I think jackets. Like Charles Grodin has that big long trench coat on the whole movie.
The Sherlock
Yeah.
Holmes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense. Like he's sitting, like when they're in Arizona and New Mexico, you're like, well, he looks nuts. You know what I
Right.
mean? It just, and then obviously Jack has his leather jacket, and then Jerry's got his kooky, wacky ass suspenders, and even like Mosley's, there's got the sunglasses, and then Marvin has that sort of very colorful plaid shirt.
Mm-hmm.
But cigarettes are a big theme.
Was smoking still? I'm trying to remember if it was still that widespread in like 1988.
I
He
think it
smokes
kind of
everywhere.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody smokes.
Like on the
Marvin
plane, on the train,
smoking.
like everywhere in this,
Yeah.
like
On
in
the
the state,
plane. Yeah.
like at the counter at the airport.
right in their
Right in the
face.
guy's
Like,
face.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
I remember he asked it like he says to Marvin, was like smoking or not, and Marvin's like, "What do you think?"
That's the director. That's the
Martin
director
Brest.
cameo. Yeah.
Wait, we're still. Where are we at now? Hold on.
Oh,
we're still on
it's just a
Amtrak.
We're on a
bunch of
train.
stuff.
Yeah.
Amtrak.
what-
So he introduces
Yeah.
the theme of the coffee shop. That he's gonna have a
Yeah.
coffee shop.
This might be the best scene in the movie, or at least the first one where you're like, "Oh, this is charming. I like this." I'm
Right.
having
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Charles
So
Grodin's
to feel like
amazing.
it has an intellect to it. Yeah.
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 Arithmetic. Maybe I can help you.
I realize I'm not your accountant. Saying if
Such
I
a
were your
great, such a great back and forth.
Does De Niro think he's gonna? Is he a cook? Like, is he gonna cook, or does he just want to be the guy that sits there and chats with everybody?
Yeah, he might pour a coffee, something, But yeah, he's going to
I
greet
wonder if he even
people.
thought it
and-
through.
Yeah.
It seems naive of him. Like we're all saying before, it's like 100,000, even translated to nowadays dollars. Like, are you really retiring on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
better have a very humble house, and you're going to buy a coffee shop. You can't really do both. And you have to wonder, was he thinking of working there, just owning it and having employees?
Also, every cafe we go into a number of cafes in this movie, and everyone's empty.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
they make a very pointed. We're going to get there. Yes. And then, so then he calls Dorfler
Yeah.
to put Dorfler on, and so he's in a motel room.
Under D for jerk. That's how you look up his number.
Under J for jerk. For some reason, Dorfler, J for jerk, Jerry. It's like, wait, J? I get that joke. But then they have Dorfler. He's eating a hamburger out of a styrofoam container in like what looks like, 0-star motel room. And there's a fugitive handcuffed to the heating duct. He's watching Lifestyles, the Rich and Famous. Love that.
It's brilliant.
Meanwhile,
And
the guy,
he does that brilliant move where he cancels his credit card.
That sucks.
Oh,
that gives me
brilliant.
angst every time he does that.
Yeah.
He's
better
canceled his
cancel a credit
cards.
card.
And he goes, "Hey, this is Jack. Excuse me, John Wesley."
John
Yeah. Brilliant.
The guy who's handcuffed is the only person in this movie to appear in what was a few different made-for-TV movies that were air quote sequels. Did you know
Oh,
about
really?
this?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, Another Midnight Run, This is 1994, so 6 years later, because why not?
Oh boy.
Wow.
Midnight Runaround, Another Midnight Run, and Midnight Run for Your Life. Oy.
Oh boy.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Wait, what happened?
Yeah, this is not even worth unpacking. Like I'll tell you, but it doesn't come to any like you need to see this on YouTube. It's just so awful. I watched a little bit of it,
Oh, boy.
but they made this. They made 3 different made-for-TV movies. Again, 6 years later, as we talked about at the beginning, is like there wasn't a tremendous amount of interest in Midnight Run, but why even 6 years later? So they made these TV shows: Midnight Run Around, Midnight Run for Your Life,
God.
and Another Midnight Run. And the guy who's handcuffed in this scene with Dorfler is the only person in the original Midnight Run to appear in any of those.
Did Cher or Robin Williams appear in any of the sequels?
Cher.
My gosh, you are.
Oh my
blowing
God, Jeffrey
mind.
Tambor is in it.
No, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes. Dan Hedaya plays Moscone.
Oh God. Also, they're actually some of the same characters?
No, Jack Walsh is played by Christopher McDonald.
Christopher
it's-
McDonald.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Shooter McGavin?
Maybe.
Wow.
Dan Hedaya is Moscone. The only name I recognize is Dan Hedaya.
Wow.
I still have to look it up to remind myself. So yeah, fail. Massive fail.
All right.
You mentioned Handcuffs, another massive fail. Or I thought it was interesting.
Right.
I saw that Charles Grodin has permanent scars on his wrists from wearing like real handcuffs this entire movie.
Oh my
And he
God.
wanted to wear rubber handcuffs, or the director wanted him to wear rubber ones, and De Niro talked him into wearing actual police handcuffs to get into the role, like to really get his mindset into the role.
Oh boy.
And so he ended up with permanent scars.
Actors.
Yeah, I read that same thing. Guess who was right? The neurotic, uptight Grodin. It's great. Permanent scars. Thank you.
I am Wait a minute. I am just looking
And
at this
they have
right
the, they
now.
have the arteriosclerosis conversation.
I love that.
Yeah. So I was eating the fried chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the
And
same
Marduk-
conversation where he's asking him not to smoke?
No, that comes up shortly. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mardukas, he shames him when they're leaving. He's like, "You're leaving $2? That's 50. That's 13%."
That's awesome.
People depend on tips for a living, and it's a very clever way of like this empathy for what's a wealthy, character.
Yeah.
Where it's hard to feel bad, and then here he's like every percent counts.
But he got in trouble because he was being mindful of money and who had it and who didn't. And yeah. And he's
Well,
an
he
accountant.
stole a bunch of money, and I thought they were joking when they said he gave it all to charity, but he literally gave it all to charity. Well, like
Right.
95% of it to charity.
Yeah.
Which is it's interesting that they make very little of that in the movie.
Yeah, well.
He's a good man.
How much of this does Charles Grodin, know that he's doing? Like how much of this is an act? Like, okay, he's lying about flying, obviously, but how much of this, like, does he know that if I keep peppering away at this dude, he's gonna break, or I'm gonna be able to turn him around, or like, how much of this is serious according to him?
I think that's his whole game is just trying to get some connection, with your captor.
And just biding his time until he can get away. I think that's probably his main. Because he tries it a couple of times at least.
Yeah.
Well,
And it works. Not to give. I mean, he digs and digs until finally, why aren't you popular with the Chicago Police Department? He finally is like, and that's the guy you're turning me into. But we'll get there. So then they get off, the train, and the I'm Mosley
Yeah.
line. His real name's
Right.
Mosley.
I wouldn't want to be yelled at by Yaphet Kotto.
And the guy he yells at just recoils like, "I'm so sorry. I was just trying to help." Again, everyone
talked to the
in this
FBI
movie.
before. Yeah.
Thought I was giving you a good tip.
That made me
then-
nervous though when Dorfler asked him like, "Oh, I'm going to see my buddy. Which berth is he in on the train?"
Oh,
And the guy's
right.
like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
3B, right
There.
past it."
Thanks.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? Living in the 80s and even some of the 90s in this time, you could absolutely do that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
yeah.
called up a hotel and say, "Hey, what room is so and so in?"
Oh,
yeah.
just like millions of that.
362.
Hey, do you happen to know where, if there's a guy named Mark on this train? I mean, you could do that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when people call to the ER, it's very tricky. Like, we don't want to say they're there, and you don't want to leave loved ones like in the lurch. And so it's this fine line.
Oh, man.
There's no real answer. Yeah.
Oh
Wow.
yeah, that's rough.
we have no one here by that name. I mean, if they really don't, but other times like, well, we have someone here and you can't tell them anything.
Oh,
But you go on
wow.
a train in 1980s, like they're right there. They're in 13.
Yeah.
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 Then they're at the bus station, right?
I love this when they're at the bus station.
Yeah.
That's a great scene. Someone's playing joust.
Oh,
you're serious?
animatedly.
I
Yes,
missed
very
that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there it is.
Animatedly in the background.
Yeah. That's the only way to play joust.
Really into joust. Yeah.
I love it that the lady at the counter is like, you think she's gonna bust him for like using a credit card that's not in his name, and in the end she's just like, "Are you gonna pay cash for that, or do you want me to?"
She
Jack
still wants
Walsh
his
is
business.
not. Yeah. She's Jack Walsh is not the name on that badge, sir. Would you like me to call the FBI, or would you like to pay cash?
Incredible.
And then Grodin gives this like this nod and a wink to her, like, good job.
It's amazing.
But I like it's like she
Such
does
a
that every
subtle touch.
It's like she has to do that every day. It's like
Yeah, right. It's like she hates her job too. It's like
Yeah.
somebody. It's like Jack Walsh. She's like, yeah, I get paid nothing for this.
Does the Duke think that he has a better chance of escaping if he sticks with Jack? You know, like for instance, he could probably alert the Greyhound bus station woman, the employee that hey, I'm in trouble, I'm being kidnapped, this type of thing. He might be able to do
that's a
something.
good
but he
question. Why
doesn't.
doesn't he do that?
Because
he
he's not
would be
being
safe with the
kidnapped. He's
FBI.
like, Jack's not doing anything illegal. He is a bounty hunter, and he's,
But
that's a
he
thing
is doing something
he's allowed to
illegal,
do.
is that- I don't think he is allowed to do it if he's wanted by the FBI. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a gray area, but it seems like
know.
he like. I think Jerry's question is a good one. Like, it seems like Duke could say, "Hey, I'm supposed to be in the custody of the FBI. Can you call him?" If he like, why doesn't he think, "Hey, that's going to make me a lot safer"?
Well, because
I
he
think
doesn't want to
guess
be in the custody of the FBI
he's,
either.
yeah, he thinks he can get away still.
Yeah. And he assumes he'll get killed as soon as he's in jail by the FBI.
Of course, it turns out that's his plan. It's this scene where it's like, do you have any cash on you? He's like, oh, a lot. Right. He doesn't know he's got like $100,000 in the money belt. So his plan was like, I'm not going to turn myself in. I guess he was just going to disappear, south of the border or something, get away.
It's if this scene hadn't happened the way it did, with Jack having to go through his pockets and get whatever cash he has to buy the bus tickets, Charles Grodin could have at another time snuck out like another $50 or $100 from his stash and just had it on him, and then you could have all the chorizo and eggs he wanted and stuff, and could have bought more groceries and everything. Like, it could have been an easier 5-day midnight run for him.
Yeah.
They have that conversation in the train where it's like, how much is he going to? You're getting 100,000. Does that mean you'll take 200,000?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And he's like, I've never taken a pay off my life. I'm not going to start with you. So maybe he realizes at that point, I'm not going to offer up any cash and just lay low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
He's
let me
starving.
ask you
I feel
this.
bad for him. He's starving. He just wants the
Why did you
chorizo
say
and
I have
eggs.
all this money on me?
Well, is Charles Grodin in control? That's sort of the question. Is this entire time he's, sort of the prisoner, or he's handcuffed and that sort of thing, but is he actually in control of the situation the whole time?
I don't think he's in control, but I think he feels like he could get to a point where he has enough of an opening where he can get out.
Yeah, he's in control enough that once there's an opportunity, he can take it, and he's looking for it. So,
and he doesn't want to play his cards yet.
Yeah,
like like he doesn't want to reveal the money.
Any little bit of information and any because when he first, I'll shoot you through the glass, he just looks terrified, like completely had no control whatsoever, and he slowly is getting information to try to connect with Robert De Niro.
And he's been on the run, like even before Jack got to him. Like he's been hiding out. He's been laying low. He's had some kind of he's had to do stuff. He's had some apparatus in place to keep him hidden, to be able to get away. Like he and his wife are packing to get away more after they hear that Jack might be in town or whatever. That somebody's onto them. So he's not totally new to this. He's not like an absolute babe in the woods. Yeah. He's been protecting himself for a while.
Why does he keep telling Jack that he needs to go visit his wife and daughter? Is that just like is that an altruistic thing, or is that I'm trying to get myself into better graces with you?
I think it kind of, I don't think I'm a sucker for thinking that he is just a nice guy, and he's in this situation with this guy for a week or whatever, so he may as well make a human connection or something. Even if that is like, if some part of that is like, oh, I'm such a nice guy, he's gonna let me go eventually or something, which I don't think he's counting on. But yeah, I think he was. I don't know. I feel like if I was in that situation and I was like, and I didn't feel like I was in control at all, I would probably be doing stuff like this. Maybe just like, okay, I'll just be pals with the guy. I'll just try to get in there.
It also sounds like a lot of these scenes between De Niro and Grodin were improvised. Like it sounds like a lot of these scenes, like they came up with a lot of this on the spot, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it feels like that in a natural way, and not like a.
Yeah,
there are a lot of movies that do that nowadays, where it's like, oh, okay, I see that you took that one shot from that one take that you liked, and now there's like a disjointed conversation going on, but that bit was funny. This is like, long takes of them just like, kind of riffing, and it's great.
Yeah. So along those lines, on the bus, the "I'm not hurt" scene. I'm not hurt. You said I was hurt.
Right.
Jack, you're a grown man. You have control over your own words.
Yeah.
You got it right, I do. So here come 2 words for you. Shut the wampa up. I love that line. I mean, that's like one of the funniest exchanges I've ever seen in a movie.
It is.
I didn't say I was hurt. You said I was hurt. You're putting words in my mouth. And he asked me, he's like, did she hurt you? Yeah. And that's it. And he's like, I'm not hurt. I'm not. And then it's minutes later that they have the conversation of putting the cigarette out. It feels like they were just having a really good filming day and just like the camera roll.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. Thank you for putting cigarette. I thought you were putting cigarette out. Why are you not popular with Chicago Police Department? Just like peck it away at him.
This is incredible. I think his superpower, much like Marvin's got the door, and Jack has the one button chin punch. I think the Duke's superpower is just sort of creating chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sort of it's a sort of he just lobs all these non sequiturs at you.
Yeah, he just won't let Jack relax emotionally or physically or anything. Yeah,
so along those lines, like Pete was asking. I mean, it seems his motive for like, I think this would be a good opportunity for you to see your wife and your daughter. I'd like to think there's something like he just kind of empathizes somehow.
There's humanity in them. Yeah.
Right. Humanity. Right.
I think it's both.
Right.
Yeah.
It's probably both.
Every once in a while you see, I think would feel like the unvarnished Duke. And it's when he has the upper hand and like Jack is in the river about to drown.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that you're like, oh, this isn't a character. This is he puts out the he puts out the branch and he's like, are you gonna let me go? You promise to let me go? And then he does that again with the plane. When he leaves in the plane, he's like, you're like, that's actually real right there. He's not that's
with the river. He could have just let him go. He could have just walked away.
Yeah,
yeah.
But he doesn't want to let someone drown, and it's the same kind of mentality. I think if someone had all this money and then steals it, knowing that probably it's a death sentence, it's the mob, and gives it to charity, doesn't even keep it for themselves.
Yeah.
So there's something sweet to his character. There's some something, like you said, very very a lot of humanity to him.
But it's interesting because he's there from the start, and De Niro has to be led there, like because De Niro's character. Is not like he kind of double crosses him. Like he says, "Yeah, I'll let you go if you save me," and then he saves him. He's like, "I'll let you go after I drop you off at the bail bondsman." Like,
on a technicality, you got me.
Well, I have a question, and this might be a really stupid question. Are there movies anymore that are made by traveling around the country to like 7 or 8 different locations in the country? Like they go to Chicago to film in Chicago.
Yeah, I love
this. They
this.
go to
Yeah.
New York. They go to Los Angeles. They go to Arizona.
They go to Las Vegas.
Like they could have like doubled parts of New York for like Chicago or something.
Yeah.
But it's clearly Chicago.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Yeah, every part of this.
I feel like they don't do that anymore.
I don't even know if they did that then.
The scenes with Serrano are all in Vegas because he was mid-season in a TV show in the 80s.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Crime Story?
True Crime Story.
Yeah.
So he's like, I can't leave. So every scene with Serrano is actually in Vegas.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
But that makes sense.
By the way, Pete, did you see the one scene they open up the door or whatever, and you're like, oh, that's the entrance to the Tropicana?
No, there's some, like, you can see slots of fun outside of Circus. Like, you can, it's
Yeah.
everything about it. Like, I want to cry because it's
Right.
Vegas, it's gone. But the one thing here's what blew me away. Every part of Vegas you see in this movie is today completely unrecognizable, except for McCarran Airport, which weirdly, how many years is this now? 10, 20, 30, 40 years later, looks exactly the same.
Really?
It's bizarre. Like, the airport looks exactly the same. The rest of Las Vegas, you wouldn't know it's the same city.
Well, I will say this: the entrance to the Tropicana is the same, except that I was at the Tropicana a month ago, and they've closed it.
Aw.
Yeah,
The
it's gone. Yeah,
Tropicana's
it's
now
yeah.
done and closed. But I did walk through that exact door, and it looked just like that. And the one other thing, they have the Stardust.
They have the
And you're
Stardust.
like-
They have the Riviera. Like,
The
they're
Riviera, and you're like
Circus. They're like mostly they're up on that part of the northern
It's
part of the strip.
crazy. You look at Las Vegas, like you look at Vegas in this movie, and it looks like Route 66.
I mean, it's like so many of these parts of this movie feel like they would have been anachronistic even in the 80s. You know, like the
Yeah.
KL 503, or like this Vegas in 1988 was already disappearing.
It looks nothing like. I mean, now
Yeah.
where the Stardust is, there's an enormous it's like, I don't know, a 60 or 70 story tall Resorts World.
No, the irony,
The Conrad
literally the
is-
only
is
place
there.
left in this is Circus. It's
That
just
you know
amazing.
what? And Circus was like brand new
Yeah.
when this
Yeah.
came out. This came out in '88. That means I didn't know Circus was that old.
No,
Wasn't
Circus is older than
and,
that.
like Diamonds Are
Yes.
Forever?
Yeah, Circus was up in like at least the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
I think
okay,
late
okay.
60s maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Maybe.
Yeah, because yeah.
What's actually weirdly timeless, and I was really proud of myself for this. I surprised myself. I was like, the taxi's pulling up to Jack's ex-wife's house in the burbs somewhere of Chicago. I'm like, okay, they actually went to Chicago. They're probably somewhere. I'm going to say they're in Glenview. It looks like that could be Glenview, where I used to work, and it's absolutely Glenview. It's Glenview, Illinois. I haven't been to this street, but so many streets look just like that with this style of like,
Yeah.
I don't know when those houses are from, but like, maybe the 70s, just like
Yeah.
kind of like Leave It to Beaver, but 70s houses, and they're still like that, and it looks just like Glenview because it is.
So the visit. I was going to say the visiting Gale scene. We have to talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, and the music here, I think, takes its most sublime term. Like it's really introspective and quiet, and it's completely different than the music in any other part of the movie. And it's amazing, like what they do in this scene.
It's like sweetly melancholy.
Yeah, yeah. And he
So
meets his daughter. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we get there, so when the taxi first pulls up, on the side of the taxi is a phone number, and it's not 555. I looked this up. It's because it's the actual and still accurate number for the Yellow Cab Company in Chicago.
Hey.
Wow.
Really?
Hey.
Yeah, the company must have been like, no, you can show our number. That's the number. And it's the
Yeah,
same
free
number to
advertising.
this day. Yeah,
That's
it's
wow.
still the same number.
Oh, man.
But yeah, the visiting Gale scene. Oof.
Yeah.
Well, so there's one thing that she says. He says, he's like, can I borrow the car? And she goes, yes, borrow the car. We'll take care of it or figure it out once you get to L.A. And then she's like, I'll just tell, her husband, or now husband, that it's in the shop. And then he asks Gail, when are you going to tell him about all this? And she goes, he'll understand. And I'm like, what is he referring to?
Yeah, she's covering up about the car. So what is she?
She's
not
covering
covering
so
up
I don't
Yeah.
know which part he's
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Does he mean just me
Interesting.
technically stopping?
Yeah, I don't know.
by?
I
It's
was
like
confused by that, too.
I sort of assume she's covering about the car. You're sort of like, you assume that she's not going to let on that Jack stopped by at all.
Because she also says that if he came home now, he'd turn him in.
Yeah.
And then he's all over the news. It's like,
Yeah.
my husband won't suspect at all that the car is gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I did it with my ex-husband. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
weird. Yeah, I understand. I never thought of that.
Unless I did not get that line right.
No, I heard that, too. I
She says he'll
very
understand.
specifically said, yeah.
So he'll understand it's in the shop?
Yeah.
So
Also,
they're arguing. They're screaming at each other. And then
Yeah.
Denise walks in the room.
Yeah.
And I messed up every time. It's
Aw.
so touching.
Yeah.
And he says, Denise, like someone you were seeing at a 30-year prom reunion or high school
Yeah.
reunion.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know if that's you or not. And it's his own daughter. It's so sad.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And their conversation is so like forced casual.
Yeah.
Like he's like,
Yeah.
"Are you in the 8th grade?" Oh, okay, interesting. All right, yeah.
So strangely.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
in the 8th grade? And when did
Yeah.
you become the 8th grade? Like, are you in 8th grade? I said, Jerry, what do you do for a living? Are you a drummer? Wow.
Yeah.
Are you in the 8th
Are
grade?
you a drummer? Oh, interesting. Okay.
Are you a drummer? Yeah, I just said I would. But I think everyone plays this scene perfectly because
Yeah.
they're all shuffling around and face acting. And I timed it. He says, "Are you in the 8th grade?" And then there are 20 seconds of silence.
Oh my God.
Before,
Wow.
yeah, 20 seconds. I mean, hold 20
amazing.
seconds of silence in anything
That's
nowadays.
crazy. Yeah. That's crazy.
Before Gail returns with, "Here's some money and the keys to the car."
Wow.
Yeah.
And everyone's just shifting around and facial expressions and postures. And Denise is like looking at him with this look that might be condemnation or more like, "I wish I knew you." It's so much
Yeah.
on her face. And De Niro just can't look her in the eye. He keeps glancing
Yeah.
around. It's such a touching scene.
And I want to
you
give
know-
huge props to not the prop department, but the wardrobe department or whoever like dressed the daughter, because she looks really authentic. She looks like an actual kid you might meet on the street or something. Like the kid, the younger brother, he's got like the collar turned up or something. He's got the bob hair. He looks like a TV kid. He's very disposable, and I hate him. But she is really great. She looks like, oh yeah, she's got like a sweater on. She's got like a flannel shirt over the sweater. She's not trying to look like any specific kind of kid or person or anything.
Right.
She's not super popular looking. She's not super dolled up or anything.
She's not trying to look like it's the 80s.
Right, exactly. She
Even though
doesn't
it is
look
the
like
80s.
it's the 80s. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
like telegraphed or anything. She doesn't have like a baseball cap on backwards or something. She's just like a kid who came in from the kitchen and she's just bumming around the house and she looks normal.
Well,
Did-
I-
Did
Did this
you-
scene make
you
De
get this-
Niro less likable to you?
No,
Yes.
no.
Oh,
Oh, no, it
it
is.
is, yes.
really?
Like it did to me that he he had
Oh.
apparently not paid any attention to his daughter for.
I see.
But
you
it
know,
doesn't
how
sound like
many-
it's easy for her. It doesn't sound like the situation.
Well, no, it's not
makes
easy
it
for him, but I feel
him.
like he talks a lot about doing the right thing, or I feel like this is a giant character flaw.
No,
Like the fact that he
Pete,
didn't
Pete, you
show up.
nailed it. You
I
nailed it.
don't know.
In this moment, you see Robert, like Jack sucks at this part in life.
Yeah,
He sucks at this part in life. You're like, okay, he's really upset at his wife, and whatever you want to say, what may have happened. Maybe it was both their faults, whatever you want to say. But this is his daughter, and he still can't even. I mean, he hugs her and he means it.
But his daughter
but-
lives with a crooked cop who has it out for him.
Right.
So that
Right,
I don't know how he communicates with her. I don't know how he, would get money to
he
her.
doesn't.
But
Obviously,
like, no, I'm
doesn't.
saying I don't know how he would be able to. Like
Oh.
I'm guessing that he's tried this. He wants to have a relationship with his daughter, and it's just been
He hasn't
like
talked
the
to her in
dork
9
is getting
years.
slammed
I feel
in
like
his
you're
face.
reading. I feel like you're reading that into it.
I am, but I want to.
I know.
I don't know. I agree with you, Tom. I think it's like I was forced in this situation. Find out that
Yeah.
I was framed and was given two choices. You leave or get on the take.
Mhm.
And so it might have been like I didn't want to leave her. I didn't want to leave my wife and my daughter.
Yeah.
And the alternative would have been like, okay, we all have to hide out in Mexico or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
And like everything
So
else
that-
he does, every character or personal moment for him in the rest of the movie is about missing his wife, missing the life that he had, wishing it hadn't gone that way. So it's not like, I miss my wife, but I could care two poops about my daughter. Like,
But he
if it-
wasn't in trouble with getting arrested by the ex-husband until he was breaking the law like 2 days ago, or 6
Right,
hours.
but
ago.
No,
he
well, no, the cop is crooked, right? The husband cop is like one of the cops who
He implies
was
that.
on the take,
he implies that.
he says, what is it, payoff night?
I took that at face value, though. I think that
I did too.
Yeah,
I
that
think
he's
so.
one of these Chicago.
No, I think
cops
he's
who's
probably
on the
crooked
take.
too, but I don't know if that means that he could carte blanche. Like, I feel like that makes De Niro a super weak character. Like, if he can't even go back and see his daughter because he's afraid that this crooked cop's going to arrest him, like that seems like going against character. I think it's more a case of he's just alienated from his family because, like Jerry said, that part of his life he doesn't do well.
I don't know if he's worried about the cop arresting him so much as Serrano, like having his men kill him.
Well,
Yeah.
but look, within about 90 seconds, he's like in a terrible screaming match with her already.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
the thing. Like it's clear. And she's like, "Are you gonna do this?" And he's like, "Oh, come on, you're gonna buy." And you're like, "Dude, she just let you in the house. Like you're
she's giving you a
borrowing her car. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna drive her car. She's lying for you. You haven't. You know
They
what I
seemed
mean?"
real used to that arguing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he fell within that within 90 seconds. Like he doesn't know his own surroundings, and it's and Charles, and the Duke actually calls him on this really hard. He says, "Yeah, well, you have two emotions, rage and silence."
Silence. He
Yeah,
starts with protest against rage, and then he goes silent when he says silent.
Yeah, and so you see both of them. Like this scene is a perfect scenario. It's like he doesn't
Yeah.
talk to her for 9 years, or within 90 seconds he's like yelling in the middle of her foyer.
Yeah.
But look at the first thing. What does Serrano tell Grodin later? He says, I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to have a hot meal, and then I'm going to find your wife and kill her too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like, maybe Jack Walsh left because he's like, I won't go on the take, and it's either I ruin your lives and you have to come with me. It's hard. It's a hard thing to reconcile. Is he
Yeah.
a bad dad for abandoning, or is it because he had no choice, or for
Well,
their own
okay,
good?
so hang on. This is
Yeah.
one part. This is so many things in this movie are tied up neatly. Now the very last thing we see is the daughter comes out and goes to give Jack the money. She's like, "There's $180 here.
Yeah.
Take it." And everybody's like a puddle on the floor of the movie theater.
Uh-huh.
And you're like, okay, he says, "No, I can't. Like, I can't, sweetie." "No, I can't, sweetheart." And she's like, "No, take it, for real." And he's like, "I can't." She's like, "Take it." And you're like, okay. So he doesn't take it. And then the movie ends, and he's like, "I guess I'm walking." And you're like, where is this storyline? This is not buttoned up or cleaned up. Where
Which
is
I like.
this?
I think it makes it more complex.
Yeah. And I mean, I almost feel like it is buttoned up with at the end of the scene, he and Charles Grodin drive away. And again, I didn't time it, but it feels like about 20 seconds of her just standing there by herself, watching her dad drive away. And that feels like, and I want to think after the movie, he'll get his coffee shop going. He'll call up his daughter, invite her over and stuff. But for now, and for the purposes of the movie, yeah, she's kind of standing in the driveway.
That's very poignant.
It is.
And
It's incredibly
I feel like
poignant.
now that at the end Serrano is arrested and everything, I'd like to think he would get back in touch with his daughter.
Yeah.
He seems like he wants to. He seems like he has such regret on his face when he hugs her.
That hug, yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Like, oh my God, I wish I had all this time back.
Yeah.
It just looks like that on his face.
No, I agree with
think-
that. I think it's.
If he was an
more-
abandoning father, he just would look away and just
Yeah, gotta go.
not care
See ya.
anymore.
Thanks for the car bye.
And he looks like an uncomfortable,
Well,
Just like-
but we have a clue here. At the very end, he gives Charles Grodin the watch, right?
Yeah.
And Charles Grodin says sometimes you need to let go and get a new watch.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, does in this case does he? It's like, yeah, I need to get a new family.
Well,
Like,
think
I
it's
mean, he
'cause
gives
he's-
him the watch. I understand that he's talking about like, hey, that woman. I think that's one of the most poignant parts of the movie is
Yeah.
when
Oh, yeah.
he says she's not coming back, and Charles Grodin says, "No, I don't think she's coming back."
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, like this is unvarnished, and he's just doing the thing.
And he can
And
let
then
go
he's
of
like-
that without letting go of his daughter.
No, I understand. I know
Yeah.
he could let go of that without going. But it is symbolic of, I guess, that life or that hope of getting back together again.
But I am still one thing I did not understand about this movie is Gail's motivation because she seems like a nice person and she seems like a kind person, and in spite of her husband showing up at her door being a jerk to her and being on the run, she helps him. I struggle to understand how this is the same person that decided to marry a crooked cop who's like in cahoots with a gangster.
Maybe he's really hot.
It's just an odd, like, I mean, people can be really complex, so maybe it's just
Yeah.
a complex moment.
Well, okay,
So,
so
yeah.
do you think that what happened was he comes home from work And she's like, "What's bothering you, dear?" And he's like, "No, the heroin dealer wants me to be on the dole. I have three choices: get on the dole, move out of town, or spend 30 years in jail." And she's like, "All right, well, get on the dole." And he's like, "I'm not doing that, dear." And she's like, "Well, I'm divorcing you.
I'm divorcing and getting. Yeah, I'm gonna hook up.
I'm
going to
get together with the cop who's on the take." Yeah.
Oh, Gail is evil. I never realized this. She gives him the car.
But they have. She hasn't seen him in 9 years, and he pops up, and it takes 1 second. He goes, "Can I come in for a minute?" And she doesn't move, and he's like, "Can I come in for a minute?" And
It's very sweet. Yeah.
It is very sweet. It's kind of really. You're like,
you'd think she'd be like, "Get out of here," and she's like, "Yeah." She still cares, I think.
but
and,
she saw him on the news.
yeah.
Yeah.
So she
Anything
knows
good?
that this dude's going to be killed. Like he's going to be killed or he's going to prison.
Yeah.
But what's interesting when she lets him, it'll be aiding and abetting, that sort of thing, a fugitive or whatever. I mean, she lets him use the car.
Well, that to me that raises the question: is Robert De Niro a reliable narrator? Like, is it possible he's not recounting, or not perhaps himself? Maybe he's told himself that this guy's a crooked cop to make himself feel better.
Maybe just
about
every Chicago cop
leaving.
is a crook.
That's true.
Yeah, and that makes him feel better about not seeing his daughter in 9 years or
Yeah.
whatever. And not,
Yeah, maybe.
I,
So
I,
are we? Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's great as a dude on the streets who can pick locks.
No, I
and
agree.
I
Yeah,
think
that-
he
I think that-
sucks at the family life. And
Yeah,
that's
but I think,
what we
like,
see.
But it
there are
hasn't been
people like that
easy
in real
for
life.
him.
Like that's I mean that makes him feel like a real person that a lot of movie characters don't. Like he's
Yeah.
got these different layers that like real
Yeah.
people have.
So are we in the diner?
Or we're in Anchorage,
Yes.
Alaska. No, we're in Boise, Idaho.
The coffee and the tea being both 53 cents.
Oh yeah.
It just puts him into an existential crisis. Like
Dude.
he has to pause and really think about that.
Yeah.
How much is the coffee? 50?
That right there is one of those perfect vignettes.
Yeah.
A little vignette. And the whole thing, he's talking. They don't have money. It's 53 cents. And the whole conversation in the diner, this tiny little morning breakfast in the middle of nowhere, Texas, is about money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You're
they-
starving and you're smoking cigarettes. We're starving. You're smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
I need these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's chorizo and steak, which is like
Chorizo and eggs.
chorizo and eggs, which is like the
Yeah.
perfect breakfast meal. That is the
Oh.
perfect breakfast meal on earth.
And his jaw drops open when she describes it. He's almost drooling. Like he leans forward and his jaw drops. And he's like, "We won't be having that. Thank you." It's the first time I learned about chorizo too. I
looks
didn't know
like
what
when-
chorizo
It's the
is.
same look on his face as when Miss Piggy wouldn't marry him.
Smoking in the diner, by the way. No, they're smoking appropriately in public
Yeah.
places.
Nobody
Just
seems to
break out
care.
your cigarettes.
Yeah.
It was a
So what
different
I
world.
want to know again, I want to know what is the theme of that? What do the cigarettes represent? Is it these guys are tough, or is it this is life on the edge, or is it these
I think
guys
this
are
is
like modern day
1988, and
pirates?
People haven't
Yeah.
gotten their heads out of their asses yet.
I think it was just like, yeah, you're smoking everywhere. It's just a natural.
It's also, I think, a lot of this movie feels very anachronistic. Like how much of it is time has passed these two guys by a little bit.
Payphones, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's so interesting is Charles Grodin is like he's the health conscious, wimpy, I don't know, like yuppie, whatever, Wall Street type.
We
White collar
potatoes.
criminal.
Yeah. But he's
Yeah.
also dying
Like-
for chorizo and eggs. So I don't,
Yeah. Well,
maybe not the healthiest thing to eat.
And there's something sweet. De Niro says like, "Hey, John, something about like at some point we'll make this money." Doesn't he say that in this scene?
Yeah,
Or am I
I'll
messing
get you
it
all
up?
the chorizo and eggs you
See,
want.
Yeah.
all the chorizo and eggs
Yeah.
you want. So get anything you want. He goes, "Chorizo and eggs." Like, yeah, sure. He starts to show he cares a little bit, you know. It's like, and he's like, hey, that's where he says, "Look, John, I didn't put you in this mess. You're in this mess because you put yourself in this mess."
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a great line. Yeah.
It's really, yeah.
so okay, hold on. What do you think about that?
He's right.
Like how? Okay, so where is Jack wrong? Like he fancies himself, the moral high ground and all this stuff, but yet he is only doing this stuff for the money. Mm-hmm. And then
Trying to make a living.
you got
Yeah.
a guy who's he's like a modern day Robin Hood. He's stealing from the mob boss, and he's giving it to charity. And, here's Jack, the moral high ground character, in his own mind.
Well, that's why I feel like the moral high ground part is a lot of that's in his head. I don't think he actually has the moral high ground a lot of the time.
Well,
I think he's just convinced himself that he has the moral high ground.
He's so nuts and bolts about it, even
He
all
is.
the
Yeah,
way up to the
yeah.
end where he's like, I just needed to get you to L.A. on time.
Right.
Yeah.
And the whole, like, I've never taken a payoff or anything. I've never, he offers him like twice to let him go and stuff. He's like, no, I've never done that. He's just got like this is my job. My job is to bring you to LA. That's what I'm going to do. There's no gray area.
Well, he's got a code, and it's one of those situations in life where you have a way of thinking that you are not willing to modify. Like you are not willing to admit that you might be wrong. And he is definitely wrong about lots of things, but he's convinced that his code is the only right way. And I think like his code convinces him to do bad things.
Yeah.
But because it's his code, he's convinced that it doesn't.
For a while.
Okay,
By
hang
the
on.
end of the movie, though, we'll see.
Well, wait a
Yeah.
minute. When does he know that he's going to let John go? When does the story for Jack become?
I don't think he knows
just
until
about,
that phone call when he's in the FBI office.
Yeah, I was going to say that actually. Yeah, when he comes up with a way in which everybody gets what they want, and he can
But the
let the Duke go.
Yeah.
until
So he-
they-
okay, so
not-
hold
The only
up.
reason he does the right thing is because that's also the only way that he's going to get what
But so he really, 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 really does lie to him.
Yeah, I
when
think he
he's
does.
in the river about to drown. He's like,
Yeah, I
the
think he
dude
does.
saved. Okay, so I have a huge problem with Jack's character right there. You're like, you can't, for a guy who's that nuts and bolts about where he is morally and that sort of thing, I'd be like, dude, the guy saves your life, you're going to drown. You're pleading, calling his name, and the guy can walk away and he gives you a big long stick. And you plead to him, and I actually have a problem with that. I don't know if Jack would do that. Now, the only way I can get past that, if you say, well, he abandons his daughter for 9 years.
Stop it.
So clearly he's a guy with a lot of moral incongruities, or at least a very dark side that just blind, I call it more than blind spots. He's sitting there about to die.
Yeah.
And the guy saves his life.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
but
a
here's what
problem.
sucks. If Charles Grodin pulled him out of the water with that deal, I'll let you go. And then Robert De Niro put his arm around him and said, "Thank you for saving my life. Let's here. I'm taking your cuffs off. We'll get you to the nearest bus station. I'll let you go." Like that'd be the end of the movie. Like you kind of can't do that, and you do kind of have the sense that like you're watching a movie. These two characters you like, they hate each other, but you like both of them. And you know that Jack somewhere has a heart of gold and that things are going to work out okay. I'm just saying how movies work,
Yeah, no.
This stuff has to happen. This is part of the story. This is part of the experience in the movie.
Yeah.
So you're not wrong for picking it apart and trying to figure out what's making Jack tick. But I don't think as a human being, yes, he's a monster for tricking him and letting him save his life and then screwing him over. But as a character, it's exactly what he has to do.
But I think that's natural for being a human being. Like, I think we all do that. I mean, I think it's part of the reason why, in our, we, like, not to get too controversial, but we have a very divided country right now. And both
How
sides
could
of
you
the
say
country are
that,
completely convinced that they are right, yet they're opposite. It is kind of, I think it's, you can believe you're doing the right thing. You can tell yourself you're doing the right thing, whether you're doing the right thing at all.
But why doesn't he let him slip? Is he like, is he because in Jack's mind he's like, this dude's a criminal and he brought it on himself and it has nothing to do with me.
It's easy for him to like. He's not wrong for saying that. Oh, this guy is on one level. Charles Grodin is a criminal. Jack is gonna get. This is his huge payday. This is gonna get him out. This is like the kind of job he's been waiting for, so he can get out of this. So he's gonna hold on to that idea as long as he can.
But he's gonna,
but
he's gonna
Charles
obey
Grodin's chipping away at it.
Yeah.
And eventually,
he's-
by the end of the
Well,
movie,
he's
it's
going to
fully
obey
chipped
the
away.
letter, and he's going to obey the letter of this law, but he's going to ignore the spirit of the law and let Serrano go free because the actions he's taking are directly going to result in Serrano not being prosecuted.
Right.
Except that as soon as he realizes that's actually a possibility that's open to him, he jumps on it. That you know, up until as he's taking this job, he's like, well, it's not like I'm gonna finagle everything so that I get $100,000 and I let the Duke go and I get Serrano and everything and get him in the custody of the FBI. Like, he's just trying to do his job and get out of his job.
No, but earlier he says, you'll be fine in the Witness Protection Agency. They're very good about that. Mm-hmm. And Charles Grodin says, no, you know they're going to kill me the second I step foot in the jail.
Yeah.
And so he knows at that point that, like, you know, he's saying something to, I feel like he's saying something to justify his own.
Yeah,
beliefs. Like,
but people do that
absolutely.
constly. Every second of the day.
no, I
It's
think that's
you know,
what it means to be human. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's.
I just ordered
Well,
something on
I think
Amazon and somebody couldn't go to the bathroom for 12 hours, you know, because I had to have that today. Like, I pressed the button today and then it arrived to my house.
There's so,
Yeah,
you know
I
what,
think it's
that
just-
line again where, you know, Charles Grodin says, he holds the stick out in the river and he says, you're making it very difficult for me to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that, I think, is one of the main things of the movie here. That's
Yeah.
one
Yeah,
of those
totally.
existential, yeah. That's an unvarnished Charles Grodin. I don't know how much of the rest of it is sort of an act or just his regular
Yeah.
personality, but
Yeah.
that moment, he's like looking straight in his eye in the middle of a river.
Yeah.
He's like, you're making it very hard for me to do the right thing here, Jack.
But when you do look at the decisions these two have made over their entire lives, it sort of seems like Charles Grodin's the guy that's done the right thing.
Yeah.
Like he like Tom said, he's a Robin Hood. He took from the evil guy and gave his money, took that money and gave it to poor people. As
He
soon
kept
as he found
enough to
out.
live in you know, Upper East
That's right.
Side.
That's
He's
true.
got $100,000 around his belt.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Finder's
going to make
fee,
the argument
yeah.
the other way now because Jack,
Uh-oh.
I feel like Jack Walsh is all about, I'm following this code and it's about justice and, you know, process. And this is what I do. And he wouldn't take the payoff from Serrano. I mean, he could have just taken the payoff or, you know, I guess, I don't know if he was paying him off or just saying like, I think he was going to financially pay him off but either way, he could have just kept being a Chicago cop if he just went with Serrano, and he wouldn't do that. But he won't take the 2 times payoff from Grodin's character when he says, I'll give you 200,000.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I don't care about you offer. I don't think he's about the money. I think he's just trying to make a living. And at the same time, it's like, I have a job to do and I'll do this job. And this is the code. And this is the letter of the law. And he follows that. I don't think he is about the money. You know, you're always about the
Yeah.
money. And it does hurt him a bit because there's that underlying theme of like Jerry said, it's like he does introduce that, like, you do know I'm going to be killed in jail. You are
Yeah.
fooling yourself by saying the FBI Witness Protection Program is going to protect me. But there's no other guard against that for Jack Walsh. He's like, but I'm just, you know, I'm RoboCop. I just have these you know,
Yeah.
rules number 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to follow them. And there's something admirable about that. It's the whole ethic of The Godfather, where these are, you know, criminals, but you admire their stick-to-itiveness, you know.
I understand.
right-
You're like that. That's a nice thing when you look at it, you know, and you just kind of go, "Oh, okay, the character adheres to that code." But then when you actually open up the reality of the movie, you're like, "This dude is working for Jerry." Like the guy with the suspenders, and you're like it's not exactly like he's working for, you know, upstanding, or, you know, he traded in Serrano for you know, a bunch of saints over here. He's
But
still,
But
Jerry
he hates it and he
Keisler-
wants to get out of it.
he
And
hates it.
Oscar,
He
they're
wants
just
to get
bail
out of it because
bondsmen.
it sucks. I mean, I'm just saying his own moral code is suspect, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think so too.
And he says, like, I never took a payoff from anyone. I'm not going to start with a criminal like you.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I'm not sure why he's a criminal. Why is Charles Grodin? What crime did he commit?
Well,
he
he
stole,
stole
technically, I guess.
all the money.
On paper, he's a thief who stole
On
from a
paper
company.
cop. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the bail bonds people are also, they're just, you know,
Yeah, they
trying
provide a
to
service.
do jobs, right?
Yeah.
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 I mean, some people are innocent. It's just like, I just got to provide this. And I think in the end, I think Jack Walsh is a very good character.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
And I
I
feel
think
like
he's a great character. I just think he's a complex character.
he is. And I
Very,
wonder if he was
very.
this
He's
complex
dark.
before the whole Chicago thing happened. Before, like in his past. Like
Yeah,
before
right.
the whole Serrano thing happened. Or if that just like rattled him like, all right, okay, I thought the good guys were the good guys and the bad guys are the bad guys. From now on, it's just me. I've got my code.
Yeah.
I have a good job to do. Get a guy from point A to point B, and I get paid, and that's it.
Yeah, I don't think it was Alex.
That's how I'm going to navigate life from now on. I have
He
to.
wasn't
just do
Alex
that.
Keaton's dad. He wasn't like Mr. Happy Suburbs before that. He probably had some issues.
Well, okay, hang on. Is there, other than the daughter, is there anyone else in the movie who's sort of either moral, who's sort of morally clean at all?
Gail seems well.
Well,
not,
no, she
if-
married
not if
the
the
crooked
cop's
cop.
Crooked, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, did we decide that Charles Grodin is tainted somehow? He seems
There's nothing wrong with
kinda-
Yaphet
Well, he's a
Kotto.
criminal.
but he's a good
I mean,
criminal.
Jack certainly
It's
thinks
all
he
gray,
is.
Jerry. It's never straight up and down. It's all gray.
Yeah.
Even Dorfler is just like, the kind of
Well,
stupid jock,
Dorfler's, yeah,
he's just like he's good at what he does.
But yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, what about,
I think most
maybe
peop- most
Alonzo
peop- yeah.
Mosley? He's trying to arrest the bad guys, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because he's set up as the antagonist in a lot
Yeah.
of much of the
Yeah.
movie, so
He's
he's
in
set
our
up as the
hero's
bad
way.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, so let's see. Now we're walking and the reservation scene.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In that scene, they call Serrano, and again, he gives another one of these colorful threats. Now, let me tell you two guys something. I'm not interested in seeing either one of you alive again until you get the account.
I like it's a very matter of fact.
Yeah, that's
I don't have a
that's actually
problem.
one of
He's
his
a-
less
yeah.
colorful threats.
Right.
It's like he's not
But it's
going to
very
do anything
clear.
violent to him. He just doesn't want to see him alive.
Not burying a phone in your head. And this movie also introduced me. This scene is the concept of Lyonnaise potatoes. Never heard of that.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, you ever hear of Lyonnaise potatoes? Like a scallop potato with cheese.
Quite delicious.
It's like, you let me go, I'll give you all the Lyonnaise potatoes. He's selling on Lyonnaise potatoes.
And he starts to say that, like, doesn't he say that he's got like a bunch of money, like maybe not on him, but he's like, I've got enough money that I could get you all the, like,
I
it
can get
sounds
you.
like he's
Yeah.
in his
Yeah.
delirium. He's admitting to all the money.
But he doesn't offer the
physically has
money.
on him.
He's like, I could buy you Lyonnaise potatoes. Like, you're not, that doesn't,
Right.
why? Jack Walsh doesn't care about Lyonnaise potatoes. He just learned about chorizo and eggs the other day.
Yeah. I almost bought chorizo today. I should have done that. I want some chorizo.
And they get in the plane.
Yeah.
He asked the Native Americans about, is there a phone? And they say something that I cannot find a translation online, what they say, but
Oh, okay.
clearly they're laughing at him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like, this idiot wants to know if there's a phone here.
Duh.
Yeah.
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 And so then
He activates Charles
Mardukas
Grodin's
gets in
chin snooze button.
Mardukas gets in the plane. Walsh tries to
took
stop
me a-
it by grabbing the tail of the plane.
That's a great scene where he's running after the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Like,
is
I kept
nuts. He's
thinking he was
taking
just
off on
gonna
a
get
plane
in the
and he actually
plane.
stops him.
Yeah, I thought he was going to get in the plane. They were going to fly off to L.A. or they were going to fly.
Sure.
I hate
took
snakes,
me-
Jock.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, why doesn't he just jump in the back? And then, like, what's Charles Grodin going to do? Like, wherever he lands, Jack will be right there.
It's true.
Jack's gonna
How
get
far can you
somewhere.
get on a half tank of gas? in
I
a
guess if he
plane,
doesn't
right?
go to L.A., then Jack's screwed.
Yeah, the Jack screwed. I'd forgotten already by this point that Charles Grodin was afraid of flying. So I was thinking
Yeah, right.
that De Niro brought that up.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was convenient to tell you at the time.
Oh yeah.
So then they're in the truck afterwards. Mm-hmm. This great line. I can't even argue with you. I don't even know what the heck you're talking about.
I got to say, back to the plane for 1 second. I'm amazed and really gratified. For some reason, I remembered the plane crashing and being destroyed. And that doesn't actually happen at all. Like, it just kind of sputters and stops. I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, I feel bad for these people. Like, they're getting their
Yeah.
Right.
their trucks or their plane stolen. And then in my mind, it was destroyed. But no, it's just, it's fine. Might need to gas it
It's
up
like
a little bit.
$8,000 worth of damage. Thank you very much. We don't even have a phone.
He gives the Native Americans the watch. Charles
watch. He gives
them
Grodin's
Charles
watch
Grodin's watch,
for,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
for the plane.
Yeah.
Which is probably a good watch if it's Charles Grodin's.
He
Sure.
says it's very
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
In Philadelphia, it's worth
But
$50.
okay, so that's again a perfect example of
Hurt my
something.
fingers.
Or for the truck, it's for the truck, right?
Yeah.
It's
it is.
again his moral code.
Right. He's not a thief.
Yeah, but it's kind of he's pulling out a
he just
gun
steals
and
this
he's
guy's watch to give to somebody else.
It's like Bill Bixby. He'll like leave a 10 on the clothesline when he takes somebody's shirt and stuff. Because
it's kind of like tipping somebody 13%.
Sure, yeah. It's like technically I tipped you.
It's tipping somebody 13% with money you took from somebody else.
Yeah.
Right. Red's Corner Bar.
Oh yeah.
I love how confidently Charles Grodin's like, I'll get you the I'll get some money.
Yeah.
Just follow my lead.
And they trust him. He's like,
Yeah.
give me, take the cuffs off and give me your badge.
Yeah.
But it shows this building connection.
Yeah.
I think at the beginning of the movie, Jack Walsh has been like, get out of here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
He's like,
Well, I
okay.
think the very first time you see Jack turning is when he calls. I think they're in Iowa or something. He called maybe Indiana. He calls Jerry from the payphone, the bail bonds, and he's like, if I don't blah blah blah, if I don't have that, I'm gonna throw the Duke in a swamp.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna kill him and throw him in the swamp. And then the Duke kind of looks up and he's like, No, I'm not gonna.
He shakes his head
That's
now.
true. I don't mean that.
Yeah.
I like this.
It's
They do
kind of
that-
it's kind of that's one of those moments that's really incredible. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
actually kind of poignant.
It really was. That was like the first. That's true. That's the first moment where it's like, what? It's
Yeah.
like, no, I don't mean that. So the litmus configuration test. Are you doing the litmus configuration
So
test?
what you discover here in this, in this little chapter, the Charles Grodin chapter, the Duke, he does know how to fly, and he's super confident, and he can come in, and he has a means to get money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's completely capable in the world. Up until then, they sort of make him to be this sort of pasty white Wall Street accountant who's completely feckless at anything that has to do with money or the real world or streetwise or any of that stuff. And then all of a sudden you see him here just blossoming. You're like, this guy can do all sorts of stuff that you don't know about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
And
still the
his
secrets.
jacket, he has the trench coat, but it's configured completely differently in the scene. Kind of, again, a little bit one of those, like his, his costume or, uniform.
So the guy at the end of the bar that Grodin snarls at is a local. He was a local that they just.
Oh, no.
Oh, really? Like,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome.
They said there was a scene that wasn't put in where at one point he goes, "Did you ever commit a crime?" It's like, "Yes." And he says, "For what?" And he said, "Murder, but I didn't do it." Just like some local.
Wow.
That's a great scene. Suppose I've read online, but who knows? But it said that it was heavily improvised. Apparently,
I believe that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. A lot. It seems like so much of this movie was. Which
I
is
think,
to
wasn't a
credit.
lot of Beverly Hills Cop improvised, too?
Probably.
Yeah, the stuff, Eddie Murphy, they let him kind of riff a bit. And
Yeah. That sounds about right. I totally miss why, after this scene, why they ditched the truck they just had and get on the train, the freight train.
oh wait, why did they do that? That's weird.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not
Yeah.
Maybe
well,
they didn't. Deleted scene where it's like we can't get that far in a stolen vehicle.
Yeah.
Maybe
There could easily be a line of dialogue like that, yeah. Or just
eventually
that,
the Native
this is an
Americans
old
would
truck.
get to a
It's not
phone
gonna
and
make
say, "Hey, someone threw
Yeah.
a watch at us and took my truck."
it. Yeah. This watch doesn't even tell time in Stad. It's worthless.
This
And then
scene
they-
on the train though has my favorite
Yes.
line in the movie
Yes.
when he says, "You glad to see me? I guess we're in
Oh.
the next life, John."
So another opportunity where he has to leave him behind, only he's not drowning in a river.
Yeah.
It shows that he does want to ditch him. I mean,
He does.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That must
And-
suck when he
and,
comes over the thing. But he's
And
still
then they're
driving.
he's trying to reconnect with him over at night with the barrel fire going on there.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Did you ever have sex with an animal, Jack?" So Martin Brest apparently told Charles Grodin improvise a line that would make Robert De Niro laugh. That's what he came up with. And sure enough, Robert De Niro kind of chuckled at it. Yeah. A few chickens I would take a poke at.
That's amazing.
Then you get the chase scene.
That
Oh, no,
the chase scene really reminds me of Blues Brothers.
oh,
That
yeah.
go-
I mean,
with all just like the
120
just
cop
piles
cars
of
were
out,
cops. Yeah.
Yeah.
But before we get there, actually, so then Dorfler gets a hold of Mardukas, and so Jack Walsh goes into that diner, and I think Jerry was making the reference earlier, where it just points out like, boy, what a mistake a coffee business would be, a restaurant would be, or diner.
Yeah, it's just empty. Yeah.
Empty,
And the guy
yeah.
who played Bob the Goon from Batman
Right.
is Bob the Goon. He's Cookie the cook in City Slickers. If he looks familiar.
Oh wow.
And he says, he
He's
says, you
in,
open? He goes, oh, he's like, we're always open.
Yeah.
And he can't wait to light a cigarette and give him a cup of coffee. And it just shows how desperate and ill-advised it would have been to open a coffee shop. Like he's just,
Yeah.
it's empty.
Although if
Well,
it's in like,
that's-
a more robust neighborhood or something,
Well,
the right
that
location.
whole scene is
Was-
a very, very different. Has a very different tone.
Well,
has-
it's got the gospel music.
Yep.
It's got the
Yeah.
It's all-
is Mosley standing there the whole time? Like is he and his friends standing there the whole time while Jack comes in and has a conversation?
20 people walk in silently.
Or does he? They're all
Unnoticed.
just standing there.
I mean, that scene is, I think, the most sort of. It's a beat, of course. You get sort of Jack where he's like the most down and out. His ulcer is
Yeah.
like
Yeah, he's
really
defeated.
killing
Yeah.
him. He's
How's
lost.
he
He
gonna get out
had
of this? There's no
everything.
way
He's
he's gonna
had
get
him
out of
for
this.
like the 4 days. He's done the whole thing, and now Marvin just came along and took him, and he cannot do anything.
Yeah.
He totally lost the whole thing. And they show the picture of Marvin driving away. You just see the taillights of the car, and you're like, this sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, Jack like reaches up and into the air because his ribs are hurt from the
Yeah.
car door smashing
Yeah.
into him, and just
Yeah.
falls back down. He's
And he also
so-
has like
so
the
defeated.
ulcer, like
Yeah,
all
I
of
kept
this,
thinking about
like
the
this
ulcer, yeah.
entire lifestyle is killing him right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's up against like the Sedona rocks,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just he's in the middle of kind of a beautiful nowhere.
Yeah.
And then he goes into the the coffee shop, but there's something sort of ethereal or a sort of Elysian about it, right? I mean, it kind of looks like he walks into like a way station for heaven.
It does, like the way the light's coming in
It's
through
true.
the Venetian blinds. Yeah.
And the guy is oddly friendly, almost like angelic, like a guardian
Yeah.
angel.
No, I agree. I
Yeah.
absolutely
Have a
agree.
seat,
Yeah.
friend. Repo Man. That's what he's in. He's in Repo Man. Tracy Walters.
And then you have, as you said, Pete, right? Alonzo, sort of the godlike figure, shows
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Again, Deus Ex Machina. That's a good point. It's like, I'll save you.
Yeah, he does
Yeah.
this several times. Like not always intentionally, seemingly intentionally, but
What's a list of almost angelic, otherworldly FBI agents? It'd be him,
FBI
Dale
agents.
Cooper, and that's it. But I like it.
So then he goes to the FBI office
Mm-hmm.
and he gets his phone call, right?
yeah. This is
he
where he has
calls-
this sort of epiphany.
And he
Yeah.
calls Moscone. And there's 20 F words in this conversation. There's at least 20. There's some quieter parts, but yeah.
One for every second of silence between Jack and his daughter.
I'm calling to let you know that you're dead, mother, father. You understand me?
Mother, father, Chinese dentist.
If you ever want to know what it's like having a phone conversation with Jerry,
Yeah. About how much he loves his mom.
Oh, dear. You put Marvin on this case, you flirking piece of shit. I mean, it just goes
Mickey
on and on.
Flicky.
Yeah. You told me to go flank myself. That's he realizes, he says, oh wait, when did you spoke to Marvin? And he hangs up on him.
Yeah.
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 And he realizes, he asks for, tell Alonzo I want to make a deal.
Yeah.
Well,
And then we cut to
real quick.
Dorfler. Yes. Yes.
Is Jerry right? So Jerry's going to lose $500,000, which is-
Moscone.
I'm
Jerry's
sorry.
the guy who answered the phone. Moscone.
I'm
bail
sorry.
bonds.
My bad. Must go.
Get your loser straight.
You know what? Here's the problem. I think everyone named Jerry is kind of a loser.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
I've
no.
always
Wait a
thought
minute.
that. Yeah.
Stop.
Nah, it's just kind of, he's got the
That's Jerry with
suspenders
a
and
J.
the goofy shit. No, is he right, Moscone right, to have Marvin and Jack on this? Because look, he's going to lose $500,000, which is, I don't know, in 1988 money, I don't know, probably like 1.5 million or something like that.
No,
like
I think
he's
it's like a lot more than that.
a lot more than that. He's probably
Yeah.
going to lose his entire. He's going to lose his entire business.
He says
Yeah.
that basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is he
Right.
wrong to have also have Marvin on the case?
No, I don't think so.
Not at all.
It's covering.
Because,
his-
What would be the
Jack
counter
is
argument?
furious at him.
Yeah.
I guess right. Jack is like, you hire me or you don't. I suppose it is an insult to him, but
But again, I think that's his own internal logic. It's you have to be loyal to me and only to me. That's not necessarily something should be a societal norm in this kind of situation. It's just this is his internal code.
Yeah. But Jack keeps messing up. He loses them many times.
Yeah.
So
or it
if,
does
if,
get him so quickly that when he calls in, he's like, "You got him already?"
Yeah.
So he must be good at his job. I mean, can you imagine if you had a plumber working on your pipes and then another plumber shows up? It's like, oh well, I hired other plumbers.
Yeah, just
I
in
need to
case. Yeah.
hire
but
multiple plumbers.
what if your broken toilet, if it wasn't fixed within like 3 days,
Yeah.
you lose your entire business.
You're bankrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see where it's like, yeah, I'm going to get every plumber at this point. So then they have Dorfler takes the picture of Mardukas in the Blue Angel Motel with the towels.
Yeah.
So interesting little fact: the sign outside of the Blue Angel Motel was designed. This is really specific. Designed by the same person who designed the "Welcome to Las Vegas" sign.
Really?
Hey.
Yeah.
Huh.
I just read about that because, again, I was in Las Vegas a month ago and I stopped there and I read they have the little historic marker. And I think that sign has been there since like 1957 or something like that.
Yeah.
They made it sound like it really hadn't undergone much change at all.
Yeah, Betty Willis. And so the Blue Angel Motel has been razed long ago.
No.
Yeah.
But I think the sign is still somewhere in a museum. I think.
They have a neon graveyard where they have like
Wow.
a lot of old neon signs from the strip and from
wow.
downtown, and you can go and you can see like a lot of them are lit up and a lot of them are just kind of like standing up against fences in this big dusty lot. And the Blue Angel sign's there, I think.
No kidding. And then Dorfler's negotiating at the top of the garage with Moran's number 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And what do you know? There's
That
a
doesn't go
huge coffee shop sign in the background. You notice that?
Wow.
I didn't notice that. That's great.
well. That was funny.
I mean, just really overpowering. Like, clearly this is
Yeah.
a sign, literally,
Jack's
and
coffee
metaphorically. Yeah.
And he
Do a deal?
wants
No.
1 million and then he just ups it to 2 million.
I
Yeah.
figure he's got you for 5, or something like that.
Yeah, he's like, you're in
I'm
for
a smart
15,
man.
so
Wow.
what's 2 million? That
I love
doesn't.
the fake out. He hands the guy the picture and then punches him. Like he's this is perfect.
Joey, when are you going to learn to pay attention?
Yeah.
It's kind of like an indie like fake out punch move.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And meanwhile, if he moved him from the Blue Angel Motel, now they're got to answer to Serrano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the towels say Blue Angel Motel, but
Yeah.
What's so great is he says, like, God, I'm so smart, I amaze myself. When he
He's screwing
comes up with the Polaroid idea.
sometimes I made myself.
Yeah.
I love how the persistence. Like all three of these groups, like Jack, Dorfler, and the henchmen, are both in and out of this several times. Yet they always. Same with Mosley. Like all four of them are in and out, and you keep thinking, okay, there's no way they're going to make it back into this chase, but somehow every single one of them makes it back in multiple times.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
I,
they're
we
pretty
talked
good at what
about,
they
but
do.
that car
Yeah.
chase is like one of the most 80s Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, that's really.
They have a helicopter shot where they just show like the battlefield of death
Yeah,
cars
yeah.
everywhere.
Fallen soldiers.
Some way they have the airport showdown.
Yeah.
Relax, have a sandwich, drink a glass of milk, do some flipping thing, will you? His lawyer keeps trying to intervene, like, don't do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, I love that.
Sydney.
We love Sydney.
why do you think they have him in there?
Yeah, I don't know.
Just, he's a believable character. It's very cool, but
A voice of
why do
reason.
you think they make a point? Where
There's like a lot.
They need someone for him to talk to. They need someone for Serrano to be. It's sort of a exposition thing.
Yeah, to
Like,
go
he can tell-
against. Like,
Yeah.
even his own guy says you're behaving too. So,
Well,
so
he can explain part of what's happening in the plot by talking to his lawyer about what he's going to do, and his lawyer saying, "Don't
Yeah.
do it."
yeah.
It's a nice way of
does-
doing that.
Does seem like a lot of Philip Baker Hall scenes must have gotten cut. Like it does
Maybe.
seem strange. Like, wait, where did this guy come from?
Yeah. He does kind of do the same thing each time. Oh, I hope
Yeah.
this doesn't come back on us. Oh, geez.
Well, and he's
I
a
don't
little
know.
bit like I guess he lets you know that, Serrano's lines are really violent and kind of crazy, but also there's a very serious component. Like, this guy is breaking his own people's code.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he's his own lawyer's like, I don't
Don't say another
suggest
word.
this.
I'll
Yeah.
get up and I'll bury this phone in your head.
Yeah, it's sort of,
violent man.
he's his own hubris is catching up with them.
But it's interesting because he's Charles Grodin who made a different decision. He's Charles Grodin who decided he when he found out he was working
Oh,
for
yeah.
a corrupt guy, he stayed on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's exactly like Gail's husband.
yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe Gail's husband's super charming like Charles Grodin,
Oh, maybe.
or he's super charming like this like this attorney.
Hey, real quick, when we very first see Charles Grodin, like he's in the house, right, with his wife and the dog, how much like in the movie is he then walking around his house? Like, is he a completely different guy around his wife at home?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like
don't
you
know.
see him for like about 30 seconds where he's not, Charles Grodin, the captured,
Yeah.
captured guy. Like, does he drive his wife nuts? Or is he a very different
I'm not going to
person?
tell you why I was
Sarcastic.
unpopular with the Chicago Police Department.
Yeah.
Is it always that's sarcastic and cynical?
Well, he does say one thing. He goes, "Hang up the phone, Helen."
Yeah. He's smart. He's
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
being careful.
Yeah.
Pragmatic. He seems smart and pragmatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
And then it all goes down at the airport.
Yes.
And Marvin never gets that smoking ticket. Poor guy.
So interesting fact, Dennis Farina. He was arrested at the LA airport.
Really?
Really?
Yes. 2007, I think. So LAX security finds a loaded .22 pistol
Oh.
that
Wow.
is in his briefcase.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
And he says he simply forgot it was in his briefcase, and he gets booked on carrying a concealed weapon.
Oh, boy.
And there's a $25,000 bail.
Whoa.
And then they determine it's unregistered, so it's now a felony, and it's
Ooh.
Oh, man.
$35,000. Yeah, and there was a plea agreement with no contest plea, and he was sentenced to 2 years probation. That was in
Oh, my
2008.
Wow.
Wow.
And you know what Dennis Farina did before he was an actor? Did we mention that?
What?
Wasn't he a
No,
cop?
Chicago PD,
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
18 years.
Wow.
Oh, that's
Chicago
crazy.
Police Department. Yeah, he was a detective.
18
Oh, man,
years.
that's awesome.
That is. That makes
Crazy
sense.
coincidence.
Yeah,
and he was
that's
shockingly left out of the in memoriam segment in the 2014 Academy Awards.
Oh, they always pull that. They always leave out.
yeah.
Seems like he was the
Excellent people.
first big one where it's like, wait, what? But yeah, it's like an annual tradition now.
Yeah. To just defend everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, so they capture him, and then the movie leads us to believe that De Niro is taking Charles Grodin back to LA. They're on the plane, and he's about to turn him into the bail bonds guy.
Yeah. But then.
Well, okay, wait, you said the movie leads us to believe.
Yeah, and I don't know what this is. Has he decided at this point that he's going to let him go?
Looks like he's thinking about it over the cigarette
Yeah.
Well,
and over the
he
plane
as
very-
he's making a call.
There's a fascinating detail when he goes to make that phone call. He picks up the phone and he starts to dial, but he doesn't put money in. Then he-
really?
Yeah, then
That's funny.
it is at the final scene. Then he puts the money in and makes the call.
Oh, wow.
It's a very interesting little.
It's like buying time to think about it, maybe.
I don't know what it is,
Huh.
or maybe is he realizes like at that moment he puts the money in and he's like, you know what, I'm not all about the money.
Yeah.
I'll give up at least this quarter.
Okay, that's probably a dime.
Oh, it could be a dime. Wow.
I think he's weighing that. What he finally says is he's weighing like, I got you here on time, and it's my code, and
Yeah.
I met the rules of my code,
Yeah.
and yet ethically he comes to the conclusion like, I'm doing the wrong thing, but I still did what I wanted to do.
I'm also curious how much of it, like I'm sure it's some of both, but what percentage of him letting Charles Grodin go is him wanting to let Charles Grodin go, and what percentage of it is screwing over the bail bonds guy for screwing him over?
Which
I
I
think
think he represents like the misery of that business. I think he symbolizes, that. Because why take it out of Moscone?
Yeah, it seems like he's out either way. Like he's not expecting to get $300,000 right now by doing this, but it seems like he's out anyway. He's like, you can't fire me, I quit.
Yeah.
And he's going to lose what Moscone was going to pay him even.
Yeah.
Which it's that finally reaches that moral that passes that finish line ethically, where it's like, you know what, I met my personal code, and I'm not taking the money for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then since he meets the personal code, suddenly he's gifted the money and he can take it.
Yeah. And before that, even before the money, he thanks John. He thanks the Duke. He says, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah.
Like, what's he thanking him for exactly? We know in our hearts, but what's the actual answer?
Well, I think that's it. I think he turns around and he gives him his watch, and he says, "Hey, here's a something to remember our adventures
Our adventure by."
Yeah. And you're
Well, it's
like,
not just that. It's
okay.
I'm moving on. I'm moving on from who I used to be.
Yeah.
I'm moving on for who I thought I was. You're free, which I think is like maybe he has grown. Like maybe he has, even in his own eyes, he realizes he's grown into something else.
Yeah.
Well, somewhere in there, one of the things that the Duke pushed for was him seeing Gail and his daughter.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest things you think he has meaning.
Yeah.
One of the other things is I think he realized that scene on the boxcar is tough. I mean, he says, "Don't pretend to care about me. You're only in it for the money."
Yeah.
And you're like, I think that, that really struck, that really was an appropriate shiv.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he realized, maybe I am.
Yeah. Because if
think
you
that's-
notice his response, he goes, "Oh, now, you're always making me out to be a guy who's just about he says that. It's like one of the few times you see Robert De Niro or Jack sort of pushed back on his heels. He's like, "Oh, come on now, let's ease up." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not so bad. It's pretty rare for him to take that posture. So
That's a
I
good point.
think
I think he thanks him for like pointing out all along these little tiny digs where he guides him in a right direction ethically and morally. And even though it's not necessarily going to be a huge payoff, it's like ethically, how can that overcome what money to turn me in where I'm going to get killed by the person who ruined your life?
Yeah.
I mean, how bad of an ethical code, and how desperate are you for the money?
Yeah.
I think he thanks him for that. It's like, thanks. And like you said, also for reconnecting with his daughter, and maybe he's going to have a future relationship with his daughter. That's why he thanks him and gives him the watch. Like, you're right, I'm going to move on from my wife. It's a very touching ending.
Where does the Duke go? What does he do now?
here's
Just
what's
disappears.
fascinating.
Did the Duke have
Fascinating.
3 money belts with $100,000?
I want to say like maybe, or like even if it's like
money belt.
maybe
Yeah.
his socks are full of money or something. Like
Yeah, I like to think that he didn't give him his entire.
It's De Niro
stash.
fish
No,
to his
he-
pocket. So
He says, "I kept a little bit to be comfortable."
or it could be
Yeah.
like his wife still has like
Yeah.
$500,000.
Yeah.
I don't know.
right,
Yeah.
could you wire money back then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't need
But
you to
I
buy
mean,
me a ticket
this is
back
why
to New York.
the ending is so magnificent. It's one of my favorite endings of any movie. But
Yeah.
what the Duke does is what? He does the one thing that you think or you're waiting for, you're hoping or whatever he can do throughout the whole movie but never does. He vanishes.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't walk away, he vanishes.
Just disappears.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he turns. Jack turns around for 1 second, and the dude's gone into thin air. And there's a bit of there's like a kind of that gospel
Yeah.
feel good,
Right.
like no
Yeah.
way chord.
Yeah.
And they hit it right when the shot hits, and you just see like an empty payphone.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
like, dude, he could have disappeared the entire time. It almost makes you wonder, like, was he ever real?
Right.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, he was the divine. He was the
Such a
angel.
spiritual guider.
Yeah.
They
Was
do that
he the guardian
supercut
angel?
flashback of Robert De Niro remembering the whole movie and like, wait a minute, there wasn't anybody there.
Yeah, exactly.
People
a
seem to
little
like
bit
talking
of
to himself. Yeah,
what if it's
Everybody's
like
just chasing Robert De Niro the whole movie.
it's like Fight Club?
right.
There's no Dorfler. I mean,
There's no
all of it.
It's that, but that's why the movie's so amazing. He's
Yeah.
just gone. And
Such a
Robert,
sweet ending. It's so
Robert,
sweet.
It is.
Jack's like this tough guy, and he's still kind of a wise guy in that minute. He kind of, he just chews the shit out of Moscone. He's, we'll say goodbye to him. Bam. It's like,
Yeah.
and
letting
he's
him go.
done.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm letting him go. Bam. And that's
Mm-hmm.
it. There's like a finality to the phone slam. And then he's sitting there, and he can't even believe. He's like, oh, man. Like, wow, I'm gonna miss that. Wait, like the emotions in that entire little shot and the
Yeah.
last like 30 seconds of the movie, he's like, wait, I want to see what that he's got. Wait,
Yeah.
I love that guy. Wait, he has to go. Wait, we have I have my own life to lead. Like he helped me, but now I got to do it myself.
Yeah.
But now I have the
Yeah, he
tools
says-
to do it. And then he's just
Yeah.
like, I'll see you in the next life.
The next life. That's so
Yeah.
sweet. He
Yeah.
says, "Oh, geez, I don't understand." He's like, "I did what I wanted to do. I got you to L.A."
Yeah.
But underneath it all, yeah, it's like they became friends. He gives him this nice smile,
Yeah.
and seeing the next life is just such a sweet sentiment.
Yeah.
It
He
is.
says on the train seat, he says, "Another life we could have been friends."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what happens in Another Midnight Run? They
Oh,
become
God.
pals. And they
Oh
open
my
a coffee
God,
shop
I
with
hate
them?
you.
about
Why
15
did you
minutes.
say that? I'm about to cry.
Right? And those sequels just I only watched 15 minutes. It's unbearable.
It's Charles
I'm
Grodin, played by
gonna
David
drive-
Schwimmer, and he helps him start a coffee shop.
And he's got an ape as a friend or something.
Yeah.
David Schwimmer. I'm going to drive to LAX right now
There you
and
go.
find that
Find that phone.
find that
Yeah.
phone and find that it's like he has the sign that says like Sepulveda, Century Boulevard.
Yeah.
It's like the cop pulls up and I'm going to ask somebody to play like a gospel chord over my like when I'm looking contemplating my life now. He's cracked wide open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
feeling.
that's a good way to
He's
put it.
cracked wide open. And that,
Yeah.
I think, is what I love so much about the sentiment of this movie is you're like, here's this dude, he's hard-boiled, and you're like, we all talk about on our show kind of feeling inflexible or getting old or getting, like, set in our ways.
Yeah.
And then you have this dude, and he's just like cracked wide open, and
Yeah.
like in that exact moment, was like, I guess I'm walking. It's like he accepts it, and like in a great way, like it's not,
Yeah. I'd like how much is in here? I think he says in the neighborhood of 300,000. It's a very, very respectable neighborhood. But he
and the
doesn't do
cab
a
driver
woo-hoo.
yells at him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And only in the movie, like a New York City cab driver, get out of here, you bum. It's like that.
Yeah. Well, Zach, I think the best thing you've done for this show is to introduce Pete Mummert to this movie.
Yes.
I've never seen it before.
I love this.
I hope it
movie.
was positive.
And anybody else who
I-
hasn't seen it, we just ruined it for you, but you should go watch it anyway. I
You should
think you'll
watch
like
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I rarely watch a movie straight through. Like I tend to watch movies like 10 or 15 minutes at a time. I don't know. I think the
Ugh.
podcast has ruined movies for me, but
Oh.
this movie I watched straight through and enjoyed every moment of it.
Oh, that's great.
From start to finish was a delight.
It's so watchable. I've watched it 100 times. I mean,
And he would
I
tell us if he
exaggerate
hated
for
it.
fact,
He's being
but
serious. He actually
Yeah,
likes
it's a
it.
cause for celebration. I'll get some donuts.
I watched the same thing straight through, like kind of had my phone off, sat down, got into bed, watched it straight through, and had an absolute ball.
Yeah.
I hadn't
Yeah,
seen it
same.
in maybe 10 years. And
Yeah, me
I
neither,
will
yeah.
say this is one of my favorite movies.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
It's
I
thoroughly interesting.
wasn't expecting to like it either. I was like, stupid buddy cop movie from the 80s is gonna be.
Stupid Zach making us watch a movie.
Yeah, his action and his nonsense.
I was like, wait a minute.
War games and now this.
Oh, see, War Games are my favorite, so you were already on my good list. So
Yeah.
there was-
Awesome.
I should have trusted you more with this one.
No, I could see the hesitation. It did. I think I remember that vaguely, like when it first came out, like just another buddy cop movie. And I don't think I saw the theaters. I think I saw it eventually. I'm like at that time VCR,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
and just so watchable and just not what I expected.
Yeah.
And it is. It's got like you kept saying the word sweet, and it's got a very sweet kind of undertone, like a very like, kind, nice feeling underneath it. It's really nice.
An affirmation kind of
Yeah.
like the good in people.
Human
Yeah.
bonding
Yeah.
and a hail of F-bombs.
Yeah, and a hail of F-bombs and senseless violence.
Yeah.
Public smoking.
Yeah.
Lots of head punching.
And introducing the concept, we have to talk about fistophobia, nationally.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
Give generously. People are suffering from fistophobia.
Fistophobia.
Speaking of giving generously, if you want to go to patreon.com/Indiana Jones a Minute, you can be like Zach. And I don't know if you want to come on the show and everything, but you can support the show over there. You can get early access to the show. You can get postcards from us, even Pete sometimes. Or you could come on the show. Who
But
knows?
you can't say that anymore, even Pete, sometimes.
I know. No, Pete, you've
I think Pete
outdone
has sent more
everybody.
postcards than you now. Yeah.
Postcard
Yeah.
Pete is just going to be.
Postcard Pete.
There was a when they talked about postcards in this movie, I was thinking if we'd watched this movie like 2 months before, this would have filled me with anxiety. But
Yeah,
yeah, after my postcard spree, this was
that was a triumph.
smooth sailing.
Amen.
Well, Zach, thank you for bringing this movie into our
Yeah,
laps
thank you
again,
very
or for
much.
the
This
first
was
time.
So fun.
And everybody, this was a fun bonus. I know it's been a while since we dropped something in the main feed here, but we will do more of it. Maybe even there's that other Indiana Jones movie that came out, right? We should probably talk about that at some point, right? I bet we will. It was in the theaters, Pete. I think you saw it. Yeah. But we will be back with that and other fun stuff soon. So until then, have a lovely time. Go open a coffee shop and go get yourself a cream soda or something.
Action.